Chapter 1424. A beam of light shot up into the sky as Yi Qinghan grabbed the sea dragon's horn, which was as thick as a grown man's thigh. Boom! The sea dragon's horn shot out a beam of divine light. The primal force repelled Yi Qinghan, causing the veins on Yi Qinghan's arms to bulge and bleed profusely. Roared at the sea dragon roared and shook its horn continuously. The sea roared and the waves surged. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Water arrows shot through the sky as if they had souls. All of them were aimed at Yi Qinghan. Boom! Yi Qinghan dodged and appeared behind the sea dragon's horn. He punched the base of the sea dragon's horn and pressed his finger on a soft piece of flesh at the base of the horn. Boom! Roared the sea dragon seemed to have withstood 10,000 pounds of force. It screamed and twisted its body as it sank uncontrollably, refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Yi Qinghan snorted angrily and forced the sea dragon to the bottom of the sea. He was competing with the master of the void ocean in the deep sea. The huge sea dragon couldn't withstand the pressure from Yi Qinghan's finger. It couldn't help but roar angrily, causing the sea to churn. It was extremely frightening, as if the end of the world had arrived. The two young dragons were frightened and rushed back into the deep sea. However, the turbulent waves behind them were even more frightening. It was as if more ferocious creatures had appeared. Boom! Yi Qinghan grabbed the sea dragon's horn and used the great wilderness divine force along with a supreme secret technique to pull it up. The huge sea dragon was thrown tens of thousands of meters away. The sea dragon's eyes were filled with shock as it looked at Yi Qinghan. How was this a human? He was more like a sea dragon than it was. Yi Qinghan let out a long roar and transformed into a huge sea dragon. It was even bigger than the sea dragon's true body. It coiled in the air and looked down at the sea. The primal force of the sea and the water-type storm were all controlled by him. It was as if he was the master of this sea. A dense dragon's aura rolled and suppressed the sea dragon. His bloodline power seemed to be stronger than the sea dragon's. The sea dragon's eyes were finally filled with shock as it twisted its body and retreated. More than 10 adult sea dragons appeared behind the sea dragons, as well as some dragon turtles and dragonfish. Their cultivation levels were extremely high and they could control an area of water. They surrounded Yi Qinghan and rushed towards him. Yi Qinghan frowned as he looked at the sea dragons and sea dragon descendants charging at him. He took a few steps back and said in a deep voice, "I came to visit the brilliant sky sea dragon. I have no ill intentions. Please do not attack." What a joke! Is the brilliant sky sea dragon king someone a nobody like you can visit? Human, surrender or I'll crush you. Another sea dragon rushed out of the sea, and with a wave of its horn, the seawater turned into a human, who spoke in human language. Yi Qinghan returned to his original body and frowned as he looked at the sea dragon experts. He thought to himself, the brilliant sky sea dragon actually became a dragon king? That's right. After so many years, it's not impossible for that young sea dragon to grow to the peak of the pseudo-realm Lord Realm. But will it still remember me? Go and tell the brilliant sky sea dragon king that the desolate lord is here to visit. If it doesn't want to see me, it won't be too late for you to attack. If it's really an old friend of mine, wouldn't you be blaspheming the dragon's holy aura? Yi Qinghan warned. When the sea dragon experts heard this, they felt that it made sense. The leading sea dragon hesitated for a moment before roaring at a dragonfish. The dragonfish quickly swam away and disappeared into the vast sea. Seeing the dragonfish report, Yi Qinghan let out a breath of relief. More than 10 huge sea dragons surrounded Yi Qinghan. They were about 1,000 meters away from each other. The seawater undulated, and Yi Qinghan's body couldn't help but undulate. The waves rolled, and the sea dragons coiled. If it were anyone else, they would have been scared stiff. The young sea dragons were peak paramount gods, while the adult sea dragons were peak pseudo-sector lords. The best of the adult sea dragons were peak pseudo-sector lords, and those who could be conferred the title of king were peak pseudo-sector lords. The sea dragon's leader was a peak pseudo-sector lord. With so many pseudo-sector lords gathered together, and with so much hostility, Yi Qinghan felt his scalp tingle. If the brilliant sky sea dragon king didn't remember him, then he could only run. Once the sea dragons reached adulthood, they would evolve and transform. The dragon scales and skin that they shed would become natural pseudo-realm artifact defensive divine clothing. The skin that they shed would become very dense and very soft. It was suitable to be used as soft clothing for humans. The skin shed by a giant dragon could be used to create a perfect pseudo-realm artifact soft clothing, including knee pads, wrist guards, and gloves. Their dragon horns were very sharp offensive weapons that could mobilize primal power. However, dragon horns were equivalent to treasures to the sea dragons. They believed that these were divine treasures that the sea god had bestowed upon them. Thus, they would hide the dragon horns that they shed. Yi Qinghan's goal this time was obviously these two things, the dragon horns and the dragon scales. Yi Qinghan was anxiously waiting. He stared into the distance, and his legs were tense. He was ready to escape at any moment. Yi Qinghan secretly said to himself, "Dazzling sky, back in the day, if we didn't fight, we wouldn't have made a deal. I beat you into submission, so don't hold a grudge against me." He had been young back then, and because he had accidentally obtained the Great Wasteland Tablet, he had used it to escape into the ocean of nothingness. In the depths of the ocean, he had encountered the dazzling sky sea dragon, who had been training. This fellow had relied on his powerful bloodline to fight with Yi Qinghan. In the end, he had used his dragon horns to mobilize primal strength. In addition to his terrifying defense, he had fought with Yi Qinghan for a day and a night before being defeated. After being beaten up by Yi Qinghan, the dazzling sky sea dragon had submitted and called him Big Brother. The man and the dragon had roamed the ocean of nothingness for more than 10 years. After finding the supreme treasure, Yi Qinghan had returned to the 9 worlds. During these 10 years, their relationship had been very good, but Yi Qinghan didn't know if the dazzling sky sea dragons still remembered their friendship. Too much time had passed, so much so that Yi Qinghan couldn't even remember how many years had passed. Boom! Just as Yi Qinghan was deep in thought, the ocean of nothingness seemed to be moving. Huge waves crashed into the sky, and a dense dragon's might and primal strength enveloped Yi Qinghan and the sea dragon bloodline. A divine sense had locked onto him. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. The strength of the newcomer might not be much different from the Mu clan's great perfection expert. Roar! The dragon's roar was filled with anger. It rode the wind and broke through the waves. With a sweep of its tail, it summoned the wind and rain. "It's really you bastard. Take this, let's fight again. I want to redeem my face from back then." Whoosh! A gigantic tail blotted out the sky and covered the sun. It stirred up strong winds and primitive power, forming an irresistible barrier that smashed towards Yi Qinghan. The sea dragon race's huge dragons all ran away. They didn't dare to fight against the dazzling sky sea dragon king. Yi Qinghan cursed, "Fuck." He wanted to turn and run, but the dragon's tail was too fast. The range of its attack exceeded his speed, so he couldn't run at all. He could only turn around and activate the Inshur's pot. A beam of divine light appeared at the mouth of the Inshur's pot, and a powerful force of the world rushed towards the dragon's tail. Boom! The dazzling sky sea dragon king's tail whipped above Yi Qinghan and hit the Inshur's pot. The force of the world was scattered by it. Bang! Yi Qinghan was smashed to the bottom of the sea. His body was almost shattered by the impact, and his organs were all shattered. Pooh! Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood, and his body quickly sank to the bottom of the sea. Chapter 1425. The dazzling heaven sea dragon lived up to its reputation as the king of its people. It had only used its fleshly body strength to injure Yi Qinghan, making it so that he didn't even have the energy to flee. The difference in cultivation level was simply too great. In fact, a peak paramount god would have long since been killed. Yi Qinghan sank into the sea, still clutching the Inshur's pot. Yu Ling Robe's defenses were fully activated. If it weren't for Yu Ling Robe, his body would have been destroyed. His head was buzzing, and he almost lost consciousness. "Motherfucker, I've become so strong." Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth. He couldn't muster any strength. All he could do was use his divine sense and will to control the water to reduce the pressure and impact of the water. The dazzling sky sea dragon king soared into the sky and transformed into his human form. He looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. He scratched his head and said, "I didn't use much strength, but I didn't recognize the wrong person. It's Big Brother's soul." Whoosh! The dazzling sky sea dragon king dove down and pulled Yi Qinghan out of the sea. He looked at the heavily injured Yi Qinghan and said awkwardly, "I just wanted to test our strength. I didn't expect you to be so weak. You couldn't even take a single hit from me." Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He pointed at the dazzling sky sea dragon king with a trembling finger. He looked at the dazzling sky sea dragon king's innocent face and said hoarsely, "You bastard, you still remember me? You didn't even ask before attacking me. Do you want to kill me? How would I know that not only did your cultivation not improve, it actually regressed?" The dazzling sky sea dragon king defended himself. Cough, cough, cough. Yi Qinghan was so angry that he coughed up blood. He couldn't catch his breath, so he coughed up blood again. The dazzling sky sea dragon king seemed to have feelings for Yi Qinghan. He said worriedly, "Let's go. I'll take you to the sea dragon palace first. We'll talk when you're better." With that said, the brilliant sky sea dragon king dragged Yi Qinghan into the water without waiting for him to speak. The sea dragon race seemed to have a special ability to avoid water. They could walk on the seabed as if they were walking on flat ground. Even Yi Qinghan could breathe freely. There was a clear halo around the brilliant sky sea dragon. After traveling for an hour and traveling for an unknown number of miles, they arrived at an underwater continent. Outside the continent, there was a huge protective halo that prevented seawater from entering. Above the underwater continent, there was a huge luminous pearl that illuminated the deep sea. The plants and willows on the continent were exceptionally lush. When Yi Qinghan saw everything clearly, his eyes widened as he exclaimed in shock, "So the dragons had migrated all those islands and islands to the bottom of the sea. No wonder he seemed to have disappeared all these years. Haha, we sea dragons are the true masters of this void ocean. We can still do something like that." The brilliant sky sea dragon king laughed confidently. Cough, cough. Yi Qinghan coughed dryly. His face was pale and his body was in pain. When he saw the lush dragon immortal grass and its tenacious vitality, he could not help but look at the brilliant sky sea dragon and ask with a wry smile, "Can you give me 2 dragon immortal grass to treat my injuries? This plaything is everywhere in the sea dragon continent. Take as many as you want." The brilliant sky sea dragon said disdainfully. The dragon immortal grass grew in the sea dragon's habitat. The stronger the sea dragon, the more lush it would grow and the stronger its vitality would be. The sea dragon's saliva was its nourishment. It contained the sea dragon's origin energy and its vitality was not inferior to the life-divine medicine in the outside world. It could not be bought in the outside world even with tens of millions of gold, but it was worthless on this island. The value of an object was determined by its appearance. Yi Qinghan treated it as a treasure. He gently took 2 of the strongest dragon immortal grass and kneaded them into a ball before swallowing them. Boundless vitality and the original dragon's origin energy rushed to his limbs and bones, repairing his internal organs. His body glowed faintly, and his skin became smooth as it emitted a divine radiance. The brilliant sky sea dragon's attack was not light. Yi Qinghan was only able to survive because of his physical strength and the feather spirit robe's defense. His internal organs were almost completely shattered and were being repaired step by step. Even with a powerful divine medicine like the dragon immortal grass, it would take a while for him to fully recover. The brilliant sky sea dragon king looked at Yi Qinghan's back and became more and more confused. He did not understand why his brother had become so weak. He was like a baby that would shatter with a touch. However, he did not dare to disturb Yi Qinghan's recovery, so he waited by the side. Sea dragons constantly returned from the sea. When they passed by the brilliant sky sea dragon king, they all bowed and looked at Yi Qinghan curiously. Although these sea dragons did not like humans, they still maintained their customs and turned into humans. The continent was not very big, and the buildings were very ancient. They looked exactly the same as before they sank to the bottom of the sea. In terms of inheritance, the sea dragon race had maintained the best. At least, they were much better than humans. Half a day later, Yi Qinghan's vitality reached its peak. However, some of his internal injuries had not healed, but it was enough for him to move freely. Yi Qinghan slowly got up and looked at the buildings, flowers, trees, and roads around him. It was as if he had seen it yesterday. It was exactly the same as when he was in the early stages of the Great Desolation. The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King could no longer suppress his emotions and hurriedly asked, "Brother, how did you become so weak?" Yi Qinghan sighed and bitterly smiled. "I've died once. I've lived 9 lives to reach this level. This time, I had no choice but to come find you. I hope you can help me." Hearing this, the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King immediately became furious. "Who killed you? I'll go kill him." Yi Qinghan shook his head and said sadly, "Forget it. Don't interfere. I'm only here to find some treasures to forge weapons. The enemy is too strong. I don't want to drag you into it." "What are you talking about? Are we still brothers? Back then we trained together. Although you beat me, you also helped me a lot. Otherwise, how could I have the chance to become the Sea Dragon King? If you think you'll drag me into it, then my cultivation is higher than yours. I'll be your big brother. It's only right for a big brother to help me," the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King said firmly. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and said coldly, "It's because you're a Sea Dragon King that controls the people here. You're not alone anymore. How can I drag you into this? The enemy is a realm lord of 7 realms. A realm lord is equivalent to the 4 heavenly beasts. To you, he's like a sea god. After I left the void ocean, I became a realm lord about 1,000 years ago. After cultivating for so many years, I was still killed. Bringing you out now will not affect the situation." Hissed at the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King sucked in a cold breath. He did not expect Yi Qinghan's enemy to be so strong. "If you really want to help me, then get me some sea dragon's shed skin and dragon horns. I want to forge a pseudo-realm artifact. The origin sacred stone is also fine. Realm stones, etc. These are what I need. You can also help me." Yi Qinghan looked at the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King with anticipation and said in a deep voice. Chapter 1426. Yi Qinghan's eyes were filled with anticipation. The only one that could help him now was the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King. He had the highest cultivation and was not inferior to Desolate Rock. In fact, he might even be stronger. Most importantly, he was the king of the sea dragon race. He controlled an entire sea region and had a large number of sea dragons and collateral bloodline subordinates. He would definitely have many resources that Yi Qinghan needed. The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King frowned. It wasn't that he didn't agree, but there were some things that couldn't be given away. For example, the sea dragon horn. It was a divine treasure bestowed by the sea god. The sea god was the faith of the sea race. How could he give away a divine treasure bestowed by the sea god to someone else? After a long time, the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King led Yi Qinghan into his dragon palace. Outside the main hall were the collateral bloodline of the sea dragons. There were prawn soldiers and crab generals. They stood guard outside the door and didn't move at all. They were like stone statues. After entering a side hall of the dragon palace, the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King lowered his voice and said, "Boss, it's not that I don't want to give you the sea dragon horn. It's just that the sea dragon horn is no small matter. It can mobilize primordial energy. The sea dragon horn is also something that can protect our lives. At critical moments, it can increase our strength. Other sea dragons wouldn't take it out for a trade. As for me, it's a symbol of my status. If I don't have the dragon horn..." Yi Qinghan naturally understood the value of the sea dragon horn. He didn't want to make things difficult for the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King. He said, "Then let's not talk about the sea dragon horn. Can you give me some dragon scale hides, origin sacred stones, and world stones? The more the better. I have quite a lot of dragon scale hides in stock. I've transformed 12 times and have 12 of them. Over the years, the bloodline that I've led is quite a few as well. They don't know how to use the dragon scale hides. They are all hidden in the treasury of the sacred palace. There are about 100 of them. The rest are missing. They aren't of much use, so I didn't keep them." The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King straightforwardly said, "I'll give them to you. Consider it as a brother's support for you. Yi Qinghan was very happy. With over 100 dragon scale skins, even if he used 2 to refine a soft divine robe, it would be enough. This origin holy stone is very hard to find, and in the void ocean, the origin holy stone is very rich in primordial divine power. The energy of a top-grade holy stone has already reached a critical point, and it is very easy for it to be destroyed by the seawater. If it is not top-grade, it is useless even if you find it. My lineage has 3 pieces, and the quality is not bad, but they are the most precious treasures of the clan and are used at critical times. I cannot give this to you, but I can go on an adventure with you and find some for you. Yi Qinghan immediately nodded. The void ocean was very dangerous. Although the brilliant sky sea dragon was very strong, it did not mean that it did not have any natural enemies. It was already very good that it could protect him to find the holy stone. Yi Qinghan said seriously, "Thank you, brother. With my current strength, I am unable to traverse the ocean of nothingness. Furthermore, I have not brought the great wasteland steel with me. I can only rely on you." The brilliant sky sea dragon king shook his head and replied unhappily, "We are brothers. You are treating me like an outsider." Yi Qinghan smiled. He was glad that he had met this guy back then, and that he could help him at such a critical time. The brilliant sky sea dragon king thought for a moment before continuing. As for the world stones, there are many of them in the central dragon domain. When we are free, we can try our luck. Yi Qinghan immediately nodded. Cultivate for a period of time and completely heal your injuries. I will deal with the clan matters first, and then I will go with you to find the origin holy stone and other treasures. The brilliant sky sea dragon king said. Subsequently, the brilliant sky sea dragon king arranged a separate courtyard for Yi Qinghan. The surrounding dragon immortal grass was especially lush. This was where he had always lived, and the dragon immortal grass was better than other places. Yi Qinghan quickly plucked a very good dragon immortal grass and placed it into the Yinshi's pot. However, he did not let Emperor Yi out. The sea dragon bloodline was not particularly safe right now. Sea dragons hated humans. Although they had the brilliant sky sea dragon backing them, if they went to other sea regions, its face might not be as useful. Most importantly, the sea dragon race was very lascivious. Emperor Yi was a top-quality man, and it was very likely that he would be fancied by the sea dragon race. To avoid unnecessary trouble, it was better for her to stay in the Yinshi's pot. Inside the Yinshi's pot, the people from Heaven and Divine Sect were still fighting. After fighting for a certain amount of time, they would be separated by Yi Qinghan. After fighting for so long, the hatred between the two sides grew deeper and deeper. The hostility between the two sides was very strong, and they couldn't wait to kill each other. Emperor Yi did not interfere with the vengeance of these people. Instead, he watched with interest. The Yinshi's pot was not considered boring. When the two sides were not fighting, he would comprehend the power of the world and devour the dragon immortal grass. His cultivation increased day by day. Time passed. Yi Qinghan cultivated in this small deep sea land for about half a month before his injuries were healed. He urgently came out of seclusion and found the brilliant sky sea dragon king. "Brilliant sky, let's go out to sea to find the origin holy stone and world stone. I urgently need these 2 treasures to increase my cultivation. I have comprehended too many power systems. If I want to advance a small realm, the amount of resources I need is unimaginable." Yi Qinghan immediately said after finding the brilliant sky sea dragon king. When the brilliant sky sea dragon king heard this, he nodded. The matters of the clan had already been dealt with. Even the dragon scale skin had been taken. "This is the dragon scale skin that you wanted. I took a look and saw that there are more than 130 of them left. The clan has kept 30 of them in case we need them. The rest are yours." As for the sea dragon horns, some of the sea dragons had sacrificed themselves. "I'll lend you the remaining 3 sea dragon horns for the time being. Once you're done with them, return them to me." The brilliant sky sea dragon king was very straightforward. He also valued Yi Qinghan's feelings. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken the risk to lend out the sea dragon horn. If the sea dragons were to report this to the patriarch, then his position as Dragon King would be lost. For some people, even if they haven't seen each other for countless years, as long as they see each other, it would be like meeting yesterday. For some people, even if they were to contact each other every day, they would still be at odds with each other. Towards the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King's actions, Yi Qinghan was very moved. Naturally, he wouldn't let the Sea Dragon Horn take any risks. He pushed the Sea Dragon Horn back and said indifferently, "It's fine, the Sea Dragon Horn isn't that useful. You can keep it. What I need the most is the Dragon Scale Skin, the Origin Holy Stone, and the World Stone." The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King's face was filled with dissatisfaction. His gentle expression turned somewhat angry as he said in a muffled voice, "You still look down on me. When I asked you to bring me to the 9 worlds, you looked down on me. Now, when you need my help, you still look down on me." Yi Qinghan bitterly smiled. He was now regretting asking for the Sea Dragon Horn. The value of the Sea Dragon Horn had already exceeded the price range. It was a kind of faith. If the faith of a clan was blasphemed, then not to mention the Dragon King, even the patriarch wouldn't have a good ending. "Brother, it's not that I look down on you, but I'm afraid of implicating you. The Sea Dragon Horn isn't something ordinary. It can be measured by its value. This is the faith of the Sea Dragon clan. Before, I didn't think it through and asked you to lend me the Sea Dragon Horn. But now I've thought it through. I can take anything you lend me without hesitation, but not this Sea Dragon Horn. Do you understand?" Yi Qinghan reminded in a deep voice. Chapter 1427. In the end, Yi Qinghan managed to convince the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon, and the two left this region of the sea. The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King had given Yi Qinghan a water-repelling pearl. Its effects were extremely powerful, and even a child would be able to survive in this region of the sea for a period of time with it. The two sped through the air and arrived at a deep and gloomy region of the sea. This place was filled with spirit chi, and there were many marine races. Moreover, this place was relatively calm and very suitable for survival. According to the law of survival in the sea, there would be many treasures and divine herbs here. However, there were very few marine races that knew how to concoct pills and how to use divine herbs. Therefore, the divine herbs here were rarely used and mined. The marine races relied on the spirit chi emitted by these divine herbs, and they would not destroy them on their own accord. There were even powerful marine races that specialized in guarding them. Whoosh-boom! Yi Qinghan and the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon swooped down from the sky and traveled more than 10 meters below the surface of the sea. They looked at the floating plants and dived down along their roots. They discovered that there were many submerged land and reefs at the bottom of the sea. Powerful marine races cruised nearby, and they would frantically flee when they encountered the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon. His high-grade bloodline power was enough to deter 80% of the marine races. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like torches as he scanned the surroundings and looked at the plants. If these spirit herbs were to be ranked from level 1 to 12, then only spirit herbs of level 10 and above could be considered divine herbs. Only spirit herbs of level 10 and above could attract Yi Qinghan's attention. Most of the spirit herbs in the surroundings were below level 10. Yi Qinghan swam quickly and dived down. He entered this small piece of land that had not been occupied by powerful marine races and discovered that most of the spirit herbs here were at level 9. It would not be a problem for them to refine top-grade giant god pills. This place is not bad. There are actually no powerful marine races that have taken over this place to build palaces. Yi Qinghan said in astonishment. The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon shook its head. It was very disdainful of this place. It said proudly, "Sea tribes that have truly reached the level of king will not be interested in this place. And sea tribes that are below the level of king don't have the ability to build a water-repelling barrier." Yi Qinghan carefully examined this stretch of land and sea. The foundation of land and sea was primordial spiritual chi. If there was no primordial spiritual chi, it would be impossible to form land and sea. That was because land and sea needed divine herbs, vegetation, and plants. Otherwise, it would be like a pile of rocks. After accumulating for many years, it would decay and shatter with a single wave. Although there weren't any level 10 divine herbs here, it was certain that the primordial spiritual chi here was abundant, and the source of the primordial spiritual chi was the primordial sacred stone. There are origin sacred stones beneath this continent. If you have a lot of them, you can take one, Yi Qinghan said excitedly. Yi Qinghan and the brilliant sky sea dragon kept diving down along the sides of the land and sea. The land and sea were uneven, like a vertical cliff. If they jumped out of the land and sea, they would be at the bottom of the abyss. It was dark and scary, and it was impossible to tell how deep it was. After diving for about 20 or 30 meters, they found protruding primordial sacred stones. They were of very low quality, and they contained very little primordial spiritual chi. However, they were constantly absorbing primordial spiritual chi. Perhaps thousands of years later, this place would become a place where the sea tribe's shape-shifting elites would fight over. After diving for another 10 meters, the water below was so cold that they couldn't even see their own fingers. There weren't even any living creatures. The undercurrents of the sea could sweep the two away at any time. Faint primordial spiritual chi seeped out from below. Yi Qinghan could only feel a little of it, but the brilliant sky sea dragon king could clearly feel a very high-level primordial sacred stone emitting primordial spiritual chi. The brilliant sky sea dragon looked at Yi Qinghan and suggested in a low voice, "It's too dangerous down there. There are too many undercurrents, and they can sweep us away at any time. The pressure down there is too scary, and the sea dragon race doesn't want to go too deep. Should we find another place to search?" Yi Qinghan held onto the cliff below the land and used his Sector Lord Divine Sense to explore. When he was about 100 meters down, he found that the undercurrents were all over the seabed, forming whirlpools. As long as he was swept away by the undercurrents, he would die even if he had the water-repelling pearl. However, there were many top-quality primordial sacred stones on the cliffs around the undercurrents. They had enough energy and could push the undercurrents away. That was why they hadn't been destroyed by the seawater yet. "Wait for me here. I will go down and take the primordial sacred stones," Yi Qinghan said firmly. "It's too dangerous," the brilliant sky sea dragon quickly reminded him. However, Yi Qinghan had already increased his speed. He turned into a beam of light and used the Great Desolation Godly Pearl to open a path. A beam of light appeared at the bottom of the sea and shot into the sky. The aura of the Great Desolation spread out, and the undercurrents surged in all directions. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan quickly approached the bottom of the sea. It wasn't that he was too slow, but the pressure under the water was too great. Every step he took required a huge amount of divine power. This place was no longer suitable for weak creatures to survive. 100 meters, 50 meters, 30 meters. When he got close to the primordial sacred stones, Yi Qinghan reached out to grab two pieces. Suddenly, a deep water monster appeared at the side of the cliff. Its mouth was as big as its body, and it had more than 10 fangs that were comparable to divine weapons. This kind of monster was a natural attacker. To be able to survive in this place, its corporeal body must be the most terrifying. Attacking it here was like scratching an itch. Before the attack could even reach it, it would be neutralized by the water pressure. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. He grabbed a piece of top-quality primordial sacred stone and rushed upwards. That deep water monster stirred up the undercurrents and quickly pounced on Yi Qinghan. Its body was about 3 meters long, but its speed was actually faster than Yi Qinghan. It had shark fins, a huge mouth, and wings. It didn't even have eyes or a neck. It was completely unknown what it was. Boom! The monster chased up to Yi Qinghan's back and viciously bit down. It passed under the feather spirit robe and was only a few millimeters away from biting down on Yi Qinghan. Once bitten, even if it couldn't bite through the feather spirit robe, it could still control him and drag him into the deep sea. It could slowly toy with him to death. Yi Qinghan's spine hurt a little. He twisted his body and dodged the monster's attack. His body was like a swimming dragon, swimming along the cliffs around the sea and constantly spiraling upwards. The monster chased after him relentlessly until it was near the brilliant sky sea dragon. It seemed to have discovered the king-level brilliant sky sea dragon and unwillingly retreated. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan and the brilliant sky sea dragon quickly rushed to the bottom of the sea. With a push of their feet, they rushed to the surface. The brilliant sky sea dragon transformed into its true form. Its huge dragon body spanned 100 meters. Yi Qinghan's face was filled with lingering fear. He sat on the dragon's head and held the sea dragon's horn. He said excitedly, "I obtained a piece of top-quality primordial sacred stone. No wonder this place formed a huge sea and continent. Don't take such risks next time. This thing depends on your luck. If you're lucky, you can even find it on the surface of the sea." The brilliant sky sea dragon warned. Yi Qinghan smiled. He liked to take risks. The more dangerous it was, the more he would try. Only then would he feel a sense of accomplishment when he obtained a treasure. Chapter 1428. The brilliant sky sea dragon king's advice was true. This origin sacred stone might leave the island or land and drift along the waves. Once it encountered a heavy blow, it would explode. The force of the explosion was no different from a pseudo-sector Lord Yi Qinghan's self-destruction. It was enough to destroy a huge ocean region and even affect the creatures in the deep sea. The explosion of a peak-grade origin sacred stone was the greatest danger in the void ocean. Once it exploded, everything within 1,000-li radius would be obliterated. As long as it wasn't a heavenly beast or sea dragon race patriarch, everything would be destroyed. Such a origin sacred stone explosion would happen at least a few times in a day. However, the void ocean was too big. If Yi Qinghan encountered it, his luck would be too heaven-defying. The two continued to venture deeper. Huge waves were raging in the depths of the void ocean. There were ferocious sea beasts everywhere. Their attacks were extremely powerful. There were some whip-like creatures that arched their bodies and attacked ferociously. It was enough to penetrate a sea beast with terrifying defense. Screech! Seabirds swooped down. As long as they caught the sea beast, it wouldn't have any chance to escape. Every step was dangerous. Yi Qinghan and Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King were both very cautious. Their sector lord divine senses were opened to the limit. Within 100-li radius, it had become their absolute domain. However, there were times when the divine senses could discover something, but the physical body couldn't catch up. It was like an adult's soul hiding in a child's body. No matter how fast the soul's reaction was, if the physical body couldn't reach that level, it would be useless. Xiao, a huge sea beast, rushed out from the depths. Its thin roots coiled around Yi Qinghan's long leg. Boom! Yi Qinghan's body fiercely crashed into the surface of the sea, creating a huge splash. In a blink of an eye, he was dragged dozens of meters deep into the sea. Boom! Yi Qinghan clenched the Great Desolation godly bead and punched his head. Divine radiance flickered on his leg, and the slender object on his ankle seemed to be burning. However, it became tighter and tighter with boundless strength. It was like a water ghost, and even his leg bones were twisted out of shape. Yi Qinghan struggled madly. Finally, he saw the monster clearly. It was an octopus, and what was coiling around him was only one of its roots. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Several roots wrapped around Yi Qinghan's hands, arms, and waist at an extremely fast speed. Once caught, there would be no chance for him to struggle. Whoosh! One of the root hairs was the fastest, wrapping around Yi Qinghan's right arm, but he caught it instead. Boom! Whoosh! The veins on Yi Qinghan's right arm bulged as he grabbed the root and dragged it out from the bottom of the sea. With a vicious swing, he flung the octopus into the sky. The Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King swung his tail and smashed Yi Qinghan into the void. However, the octopus's roots were still wrapped around Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was also sent flying into the sky. Fuck! Yi Qinghan's head was facing down while his feet were facing the sky. His body was like a rainbow as he disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the sky above the ocean of nothingness, spatial storms swirled. Dark clouds covered the sky, and a torrential downpour erupted at the same time. Lightning covered the sky and the earth, and it was extremely fierce. It directly struck the octopus, and the octopus's roots automatically loosened. Yi Qinghan's body fell from the sky again. Whoosh! The Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King hurriedly raised its tail and caught Yi Qinghan. Bang! The huge tail slammed into the water surface and bounced Yi Qinghan up again. The dragon head swooped down and caught Yi Qinghan on its head, riding the wind and waves on the sea surface. Yi Qinghan grimaced in disbelief. Its attacks were indiscriminate. If this continued, even if he didn't die in the sea beast's mouth, he would die under its tail. Can you be more careful the next time you attack? Yi Qinghan lay on the dragon head dispiritedly and said with a bitter smile. Cough cough. I keep forgetting that you have become weaker. The brilliant sky sea dragon king laughed self-deprecatingly. Yi Qinghan sighed slightly and didn't want to argue with it anymore. However, he became more careful later on. If the brilliant sky sea dragon king made 2 more small mistakes, he would be tortured to death. The man and dragon advanced quickly. With the brilliant sky sea dragon king leading the way, all the sea beasts avoided them. This increased their speed by a lot as they advanced for tens of thousands of nautical miles. Boom, boom boom boom. Whoosh! Huge waves came one after another, but the sky was clear blue, which surprised the brilliant sky sea dragon king. He raised his head to look at the sea and saw his surroundings clearly. Since it wasn't a sea anomaly, it was a sea beast calamity. He stopped and became extremely vigilant. The brilliant sky sea dragon king wasn't invincible, especially in the depths of the void ocean. If it wasn't careful, it would be killed by the sea beasts. The brilliant sky sea dragon king let out a long roar, hoping to warn the sea beasts in the depths not to act recklessly. However, its roar caused the waves in the depths to surge even more violently. What is that? Yi Qinghan stood up and looked into the distance. The waves were tens of thousands of meters tall and hundreds of meters tall. It almost formed a water curtain that covered the sky. It was approaching continuously. It should be coming with ill intentions. Otherwise, the brilliant sky sea dragon king's roar would have forced it back. I don't know. It should be a sea beast that is coming for me. The brilliant sky sea dragon king said in a deep voice. The brilliant sky sea dragon king's bloodline was extremely powerful. It was the favorite food of the sea beasts. However, those that dared to target the brilliant sky sea dragon king were definitely huge creatures. Naturally, their strength was also at the level of the brilliant sky sea dragon king. A muffled roar exploded like a clap of thunder, following which the water curtain was pierced through and a gigantic creature appeared in Yi Qinghan's line of sight. Its head was the size of a small mountain and its face was filled with malevolence. Its fangs were like pillars and its face was uneven like a corroded mountain. It was truly disgusting. What? The huge creature stood up. Half of its body was above the surface of the sea. Its arms were as thick as a young dragon's body. It was more than 30 meters long. Its body was dark and densely packed with protrusions. It gave people goosebumps just by looking at it. It looked similar to a human, but it was too big and disgusting. Yi Qinghan felt a numbing sensation on his face. Even though he was very knowledgeable, he did not recognize such a huge creature. Roar! The huge creature roared and rushed towards the brilliant sky sea dragon king. This is the sea race's evil spirit man. Its strength is about the same as mine. You can't help me now. Retreat first. Wait for me to defeat it first. The brilliant sky sea dragon king said in shock. Shoot at when Yi Qinghan heard this, he couldn't care less. He immediately retreated a kilometer away, maintaining a certain distance from them. This way, he could attack or defend. Boom! The evil spirit man hammered the surface of the sea with its arms. With a twist of its body, it swept up a huge wave and rushed towards the brilliant sky sea dragon king. Roared at the brilliant sky sea dragon king soared into the sky. Its huge tail swung and smashed the space. The seawater surged in all directions. The dragon horn mobilized the primordial power and crushed the evil spirit man's wave attack. Bang! The huge tail swung onto the huge wave. Water arrows shot out in all directions. The huge tail was unstoppable and crashed into the evil spirit man's chest. However, the evil spirit man waved its huge palm to grab the huge tail. Its other hand grabbed towards the dragon horn. It opened its bloody mouth and grabbed towards the brilliant sky sea dragon king's neck. Chapter 1429. The deep-sea evil spirit man had a malevolent expression and was extremely bloodthirsty. His arms were 100 meters long, but it was still difficult for him to capture the brilliant sky sea dragon king. Boom! What a dragon and an evil spirit man charged from afar, roaring furiously. Especially the brilliant sky sea dragon king. Sea dragons had supreme authority in the sea. Only some rare deep-sea beasts could provoke them. Now that it was provoked, how could it not be angry? Its huge tail swung to the sky, creating a 1,000 tall wave that repelled the evil spirit man's huge palm. The evil spirit man took several steps back. The astral wind was intense, sweeping over 1,000 li. Yi Qinghan, who was standing far away, could clearly sense that the terrifying astral wind was enough to tear apart an ordinary supreme god. The battle between two king-level sea beasts shook the heavens and earth, causing the sea to roar and rain to pour down. Roar! The evil spirit man was enraged after being repelled. He bared his fangs and brandished his claws as he pounced towards the brilliant sky sea dragon king. The void ocean seemed to be restless as it kept churning, forcing Yi Qinghan to retreat a few thousand meters. Boom! The evil spirit man hugged the brilliant sky sea dragon king's body and opened his huge mouth to bite over. Their attacks were the most primitive, and their strength was also primitive. However, their destructive power was definitely not inferior to those pseudo-sector lords. Roared at the brilliant sky sea dragon king let out a miserable shriek. Its body twisted and its dragon head attacked. Its fangs pierced through the evil spirit man's right arm and pulled it over. Boom! The brilliant sky sea dragon king fiercely swung and flung the evil spirit man 10,000 meters away. What? The evil spirit man flew back on the sea. His entire body was flung out by the brilliant sky sea dragon king, creating huge waves. Boom! The brilliant sky sea dragon king was not going to let the evil spirit man off. The sea dragon horn activated the primitive power. Sharp lightning condensed on the horn and became stronger and more destructive. It formed a huge lightning sword that ruthlessly slashed towards the evil spirit man's head. The evil spirit man blocked the lightning sword with his arms. However, he was sent flying by the lightning sword. His arms exploded and his flesh was badly mangled, dyeing half of the sea red. The brilliant sky sea dragon king twisted its body and unleashed its greatest power at the shortest distance. With a swing of its dragon head, the dragon horn struck the evil spirit man's chest. The evil spirit man kept retreating, but the seawater slowed him down. In the blink of an eye, the brilliant sky sea dragon king caught up to him. Bang! The devil man grabbed the dragon horn with both hands, but he was sent flying out of the sea by the brilliant sky sea dragon king. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed and he leaped into the air. He took out the Yin clan's pot and soared into the sky. A beam of divine light swept out and the seawater was sucked into the pot. Absorb! In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan had arrived behind the evil spirit man. The divine light covered the evil spirit man, and the power of the world tore apart the sea, causing a pillar of water to soar into the sky. However, the evil spirit man was holding onto the brilliant sky sea dragon king's dragon horn, and the brilliant sky was desperately struggling backwards. Yi Qinghan's strength was simply not enough to take away the two giant beasts. Push it into the Inshur's pot. Yi Qinghan's face was pale as he gritted his teeth and shouted. Inda when the brilliant sky sea dragon king heard it, it did not hesitate to rush forward. It followed the pull of the power of the world and crashed into the Inshur's pot. It had to be said that the brilliant sky sea dragon king's trust in Yi Qinghan had reached the peak. If it was some human cultivator friend, they would not hand their fate over to another person. Even father and son would have some misgivings, but it did not have any misgivings. Even if it was shot into the Inshur's pot, it was certain that Yi Qinghan would not harm it. The evil spirit man was shocked. It roared and grabbed the dragon horn to escape into the sea. However, the sea dragon's strength was not inferior to it. The two of them were in a stalemate, and they could not stop the tearing power of the Inshur's pot. The dragon and the evil spirit man quickly rushed towards the Inshur's pot. Yi Qinghan's divine light poured out, and the realm lord's divine sense opened. He controlled the Inshur's pot, and his 7 orifices were bleeding. He gritted his teeth and endured it. The Inshur's pot was already pushed to the limit, and the divine light covered the sky. Boom! What? The sea poured in, and the Inshur's pot was like a bottomless pit. It was as if it wanted to swallow the entire void ocean. Emperor Yi, who was in the Inshur's pot, was shocked because a large amount of seawater had appeared in the Inshur's pot. No matter how big the space inside the Inshur's pot was, it was still limited. How could it hold so much seawater? The seawater quickly filled half of the Inshur's pot, and the people of Heavenly Heaven and Divine Sect were in that position. They were quickly drowned by the seawater, and they immediately screamed and roared as they struggled madly. The seawater was polluted by the filthy water in the Inshur's pot, and it carried an extremely strong destructive power as it contaminated their Tao fruits and corporeal bodies. Their cultivation was quickly disappearing, and their corporeal bodies were also festering and melting. The screams became louder and louder, and it was a ghastly sight. Emperor Yi continued to climb upwards. He was not restricted by the power of the world in the Inshur's pot, and he could reach anywhere. However, it was different for those people. They were imprisoned in a region by Yi Qinghan, and without Yi Qinghan's permission, they could not go anywhere. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was absorbing the evil spirit man with all his strength, so how could he care about them? Most of the people of Heavenly Heaven and Divine Sect were swallowed by the seawater. Only a few experts relied on their divine power to protect themselves and avoided this calamity. However, they could not hold on for long. Yi Qinghan pressed 2 fingers on his forehead and circulated his soul to the maximum. His corporeal body could not hold on any longer, and his blood vessels were bulging. He could explode and die at any moment. The brilliant sky sea dragon king roared and exploded with a sky-splitting power. Its huge tail smashed into the sea, and the recoil brought it and the evil spirit man into the Inshur's pot. Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of essence blood and quickly closed the lid of the Inshur's pot. The Inshur's pot was his domain, and he forcefully separated the evil spirit man and the brilliant sky sea dragon king. Then he sent the brilliant sky sea dragon king out, and Emperor Yi was also sent out. Because the evil spirit man was too strong, he overturned the seas and rivers in the Inshur's pot, and it was not suitable for people to live inside. The Heaven Lord and God Lord's faces were pale as they looked at the evil spirit man in despair. Before they could beg for mercy, they were devoured by the evil spirit man. The evil spirit man roared and beat his chest, wanting to escape the Inshur's pot, but this place had become his hell. Without Yi Qinghan's permission, he could not break the Inshur's pot, much less leave. Yi Qinghan's face was pale as he landed on the brilliant sky sea dragon king's back with Emperor Yi gasping for breath. The brilliant sky sea dragon king was a little shocked. He did not expect there to be such a beautiful woman hidden in the Inshur's pot. "This is your sister-in-law," Yi Qinghan immediately explained, afraid that the brilliant sky sea dragon king would attack Emperor Yi. "Hello, sister-in-law." The brilliant sky sea dragon king smiled honestly and hurriedly nodded. Emperor Yi smiled and bowed. "So you are the brilliant sky sea dragon king. I am Emperor Yi, Qinghan's wife. You are indeed the best in the world. You are worthy of my brother," the brilliant sky sea dragon king said loudly. Emperor Yi shyly hugged the divine zither and did not speak. Instead, he gently played the zither to help Yi Qinghan heal his injured body. The heavenly melody was vast and mighty, and it was as if the sea was intoxicated. The surrounding sea was silent, and there were only some ripples. It was very calm. Chapter 1430. The melody of the zither was melodious like the sounds of nature. The brilliant sky sea dragon king was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a long time. The power of the bloodline in his body was rapidly expanding. His dragon blood was boiling as if he was evolving. Yi Qinghan was also taking this opportunity to heal his injuries. The cracks on the surface of his body had disappeared, and the churning of his blood and qi had also stabilized. The brilliant sky sea dragon king was dumbfounded. He had completely forgotten what he wanted to say. He could only quietly listen to the zither music. His body was lying on the calm surface of the sea, drifting with the waves. A day later, Yi Qinghan completely stabilized and opened his eyes. Not only did this eruption not cause him to lose anything, but it also gave him a sense of impending doom, and his control over some of the laws and profundities had improved. Emperor Yi stopped playing the zither. The void ocean became turbulent again. Huge waves rose and fell. The brilliant sky sea dragon king looked at Emperor Yi in shock. His voice was like thunder as he said, "Sister-in-law's zither music is so powerful. I almost broke through to the mid-king level." Obviously, the king level wasn't just a single level. There were also differences between kings. A newly entered king level would obviously not be a match for a veteran king. However, the brilliant sky sea dragon king had just entered the king level not long ago. After listening to the zither music for a while, there were signs of a breakthrough. How could he not be shocked? Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and said indifferently, "How could the music played by the scarlet demon zither immortal physique not be powerful? Before I leave, I will definitely think of a way to help you enter the peak king level. At the very least, you will be a mid-king level." The brilliant sky sea dragon king was very excited. It would take hundreds of thousands of years to break through a small realm of the king level. Some kings couldn't even break through to the mid-king level for their entire lives. If one could reach the peak king level, they would have the opportunity to establish another sea dragon race and become the patriarch. Then their status would be different. They might even be summoned by heavenly beasts. The evil ghost man was roaring in the Inshur's pot. The pot was shaking. However, this was Yi Qinghan's domain. It couldn't be arrogant. The realm lord's soul mobilized the power of the world, suppressing the evil ghost man to the Inshur's pot. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't resist the realm lord's will. The filthy aura corroded its body. No matter how hard it was, it couldn't withstand the realm lord's destruction. Roar! The evil spirit man screamed miserably as he felt death descending upon him. He began to beg for mercy as his body continuously shrank. He looked like a peerless evil spirit, and his face was extremely terrifying. As a king-level expert, although it had just entered the king level, if it was a human, it would be a pseudo-world lord. It would be useful at crucial moments. Yi Qinghan didn't want to kill it, so he took the chance to subdue it. However, it was a monster without a soul. Everything it did was based on its instincts. Seals were useless against it. Yi Qinghan could only scare it. Soon after, the brilliant sky sea dragon king brought Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi to ride the winds and break through the waves as they charged toward the east. The sun had just risen and a red glow covered the entire ocean as if it had been dyed red with blood. A rainbow of colors hung in midair like a bridge. Giant dragons shuttled back and forth under the bridge. Emperor Yi played the zither again, and the melody triggered the power of the brilliant sky sea dragon king's bloodline, helping it evolve its bloodline and transform its body. The brilliant sky sea dragon king was incomparably excited as it roared continuously. Its speed became faster and faster, and its aura soared into the sky. Everywhere it passed, there were no longer any deep-sea beasts blocking its path. Boom, boom, boom. Huge waves rushed to both sides. The void ocean was boundless, and after traveling for an unknown amount of time, they entered an ocean region. The sea beasts here seemed to have a certain level of intelligence, and there were quite a lot of them. Their cultivation was powerful, and even the weakest was at the giant god level. However, they didn't kill each other, and instead swam towards the same direction. We have arrived at the central continent of the sea race. There is a land with a radius of about 1,000,000 miles in front of us. That is the territory of the sea dragon race. It is also the trading ground of the powerful sea beasts in this region. There are many different races, but my sea dragon race has the highest status. Here, even a peak king level expert would have to give face to the sea dragon race. The brilliant sky sea dragon king shouted. Yi Qinghan nodded inwardly. He could see that the moment the brilliant sky sea dragon king entered this place, the deep sea beasts and intelligent sea race all made obvious movements to avoid it. It could be seen that the patriarch of the sea dragon race's cultivation had reached a heaven-defying realm. It was absolutely beyond that old man from the Mu family, and was extremely close to the realm lord level. Xiaodahua. The huge waves roared, and the brilliant sky sea dragon king soared into the sky, forming a layer of water curtain. It faced the sunlight and emitted a rainbow-colored divine radiance. Yi Qinghan stood on the dragon's head and looked towards the east. The sun seemed to be rising from that land. Layers of mist pervaded the air, making it look like a fairyland. What a beautiful central continent of the sea race! Emperor Yi had an intoxicated expression as he kept his divine guqin. His white robe fluttered in the wind, making him look even more like a fairy. Yi Qinghan turned to look at Emperor Ye's appearance and said with a smile, "Son, you should change your clothes and disguise yourself as a man. Otherwise, there will be trouble in the central continent." Emperor Yi nodded. There were many different races in the sea race, and the sea dragon race wasn't the only dominant race. Even if it was, the brilliant sky sea dragon king wouldn't be able to cover the sky with one hand. It was better to keep a low profile here. A divine light curtain appeared around Emperor Yi, covering his figure. After the colorful curtain disappeared, Emperor Yi was wearing a man's battle robe. His towering chest was restrained, and his hair was tied up. His face didn't change much, but his heroic spirit was more prominent. He looked like a peerlessly handsome man. In terms of appearance, Yi Qinghan couldn't compare. With a height of 1.75 meters, he was definitely at the level of a little fresh meat. Ring, ring, ring. That Emperor Yi spun around and said wittily, "Master, do you think I'm handsome? Am I more handsome than you?" Cough, cough. Yi Qinghan coughed dryly. He was subdued by Emperor Ye's appearance. With this appearance, if he went out to pick up girls, none of the princesses of the sea race would be able to escape. Keep a low profile. It's not good to be too handsome. Be careful of the princesses of the sea race chasing after you. Yi Qinghan laughed. Hee hee, it's better for them to chase after me than to chase after you. Emperor Yi giggled and said, "I don't want you to randomly pick up girls again. If you bring a princess of the sea race back, I won't be happy." Yi Qinghan shrugged, expressing his helplessness. It wasn't wrong to be handsome. It was a natural ability to attract the opposite sex. Emperor Yi lowered his voice again, becoming hoarse and deep. He was like a mature youth. Every word and action of his had an indescribable charm. He definitely suppressed Yi Qinghan. "I am young Emperor Yi. This is my elder brother, Yi Qinghan." Emperor Yi purposely put on airs and said. Yi Qinghan laughed. This Emperor Yi seemed even more charming and likable. Whoosh! The brilliant sky sea dragon king brought the two of them to the edge of the continent. With a flash, he transformed into his human form. Most of the sea race around them transformed into half-human, half-demon forms. Their bodies were much smaller, and the tallest one was only about 3 meters. After all, the continent was too small. In order to save space, they had no choice but to transform into human forms. Even though they hated humans deep in their hearts, they yearned for them. Chapter 1431. Boom. The three of them stepped onto the sea and attracted the attention of some sea demons on the shore. Humans? It's really humans. How many years has it been since a human stepped onto the sea race's land? A group of slightly weaker sea demons were only half human and half demon. They didn't dare to offend the brilliant sky sea dragon king and only dared to whisper from afar. If Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi came here alone, this group of demons would have already pounced on them and eaten their corpses. This place was equivalent to another world. The customs were completely different from the humans in the 9 worlds heaven. Everything was filled with a primitive taste. However, Yi Qinghan felt a sense of familiarity. Phew. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. His eyes flashed as he clenched his fists and the corner of his mouth curved into a smile. It's still the same continent from back then. Everything has changed. Only my brother and this continent haven't changed. Yi Qinghan said excitedly. The brilliant sky sea dragon king laughed foolishly. Sensing Yi Qinghan's excitement, he gestured for the two of them to go deeper into the sea. This was only the periphery and hadn't been used yet. Everything was primitive. The primeval forests, primeval trees, and mountain ranges had been trampled into a path to the heavens by giant beasts. There were many half-human, half-demon sea creatures on the path. Most of them were at the peak of the giant god realm and couldn't transform into a complete human. They were extremely ugly. There were also some intelligent races. Although their cultivation wasn't high, their transformed appearances were very handsome. There were many Supreme God Realm sea creatures. Although there weren't many King Realm creatures, there were still quite a few. This was the gathering place of powerful sea dragons. Except for the lack of a realm lord, the experts here could destroy any world in the 9 worlds heaven. Yi Qinghan sized up the surroundings. The surrounding sea creatures were also staring at him and Emperor Yi. They were attracted by the vigorous blood energy on their bodies and drooled. If they weren't afraid of the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King, they wouldn't have suppressed them. Scram! You dare to drool over my brother? The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King looked at the drooling expressions of the surrounding sea creatures and was instantly enraged. He let out a thunderous roar, scaring the surrounding sea creatures into fleeing. Whoosh! The goshawk swooped through the air and flew over the heads of Yi Qinghan and the others. It seemed to be intentionally provoking them as it flew at an extremely fast speed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he stared at the disappearing back of the hawk. He murmured, the descendant of the primordial black dragon hawk's bloodline. I didn't expect it to still be passed down. The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King stared at the back of the Azure Dragon Eagle and angrily snorted. This kind of Azure Dragon Eagle is too difficult to catch. It's extremely fast and its attack power is too savage. It even specializes in eating metamorphosed oceanids and sea dragons. It's simply a disgrace to my sea dragon clan. If it wasn't for the fact that the Patriarch forbade us from exterminating them, the myriad races would have already exterminated them. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and said in a low voice, I heard that the Dragon Eagle has the bloodline of a heavenly beast. Of course, the Sea Dragon Patriarch would not allow you to exterminate the Azure Dragon Eagle bloodline. What? The bloodline of a heavenly beast? The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King's pupils shrunk as he asked in astonishment. This matter involves the Tyrant Divine Dragon's private matters. It's better if you don't know about it. It won't do you any good, Yi Qinghan said calmly. When the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King heard that it was related to the Tyrant Divine Dragon, he stopped probing. Including him, no one from the Sea Dragon bloodline dared to pry into the Eastern Tyrant Divine Dragon's private matters. This was blasphemy against their ancestors and went against their beliefs. So that's the case. No wonder. If the other sea dragons dared to kill each other and slaughter the other sea dragons, the Patriarch would definitely exterminate them. However, the Azure Dragon Eagle is different. Even if it specializes in eating the sea dragons as food, the Patriarch wouldn't blame it excessively. The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King murmured. Forget it. Just pretend that you don't know about it. If it provokes you, kill it. However, don't join forces with the other races to kill it. Otherwise, you will be punished by the Patriarch of the Sea Dragons. Yi Qinghan shook his head and reminded. The 3 continued forward. The scorching sun was high up in the sky, but it didn't feel hot at all. The wind was gentle and the sun was bright. The primitive forest swayed as they quickly entered the plains. This was a complete continent filled with primitive spiritual qi. It was very suitable for living. One could imagine how many primitive sacred stones there were under this continent. In the depths of the continent, the number of experts had increased, especially the kings and paramount god-level sea beasts. The younger generation of geniuses looked down on all living beings. Even the sea dragons weren't in their eyes. In the sea race, the strong were respected. Bloodline didn't matter. Unlike the humans, if a prince of an imperial dynasty, even if he was a trash as long as he was still a prince, no one would dare to blaspheme his dignity. Otherwise, it would be blasphemy against the imperial family. These experts seemed to know each other. When the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King appeared with Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi, they immediately attracted the attention of some monstrous experts. A powerful young king frowned as he looked at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. He coldly said, "Brilliant Sky, do you know how long it has been since humans have set foot on this continent? You actually dared to bring humans here. Does your patriarch know about this?" The young king's true form was that of a Qiong Qi. It punished the good and promoted the evil. It fed on the blood, essence, and flesh of humans. Its true form barked like a dog and was the size of a cow. It was one of the 12 great demonic beasts, comparable to the azure dragon eagle. Cheongqi, these two are my brothers. Don't have any ideas about them. Otherwise, I won't be polite. The brilliant sky sea dragon king coldly warned. Cheongqi's appearance was cold. He was short and skinny. He licked the corner of his mouth with his dark red tongue. His eyes were sinister, filled with aggression and desire. He looked at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi and said with disdain, "You think you can protect them? Any human that comes here will never be able to leave. Your brothers are no exception. You are courting death." The brilliant sky sea dragon king was enraged and was about to rush up and teach Cheongqi a lesson. Yi Qinghan reached out and pulled back the tall and sturdy brilliant sky sea dragon king. He signaled with his eyes and transmitted a message: "Don't be rash. The 12 great demonic beasts are all nearby. They are all in one. If you make a move here, you will be at a disadvantage." The brilliant sky sea dragon king raised his eyes and scanned the surroundings. He discovered a few powerful demonic beasts that had transformed into human form. They were all eyeing them covetously. However, he didn't discover any other demonic beasts. Yi Qinghan's world lord divine sense slowly spread out. It was faintly discernible as he controlled the surrounding 100 miles. He discovered that it wasn't just the 12 great demonic beasts. There were also many ferocious deep-sea giant demonic beasts that had transformed into human form. "Let's enter the city first. We can't stay here for long." Yi Qinghan quickly pulled Emperor Yi and the brilliant sky sea dragon king towards the sea race city. There were 12 great demonic beasts in the sea dragon weave. They were extremely ferocious. Cheongqi was the leader, followed by Tao Wu. They followed closely behind Yi Qinghan. If the brilliant sky sea dragon king wasn't here, they would have already pounced on them. Emperor Yi felt a chill run down his spine. It was as if there was a blade at his back that could slash them at any time. Swish, swish. The three of them increased their speed. However, when they reached the outskirts of the city, they were stopped by the restless Cheongqi. Chapter 1432. Cheongqi blocked Yi Qinghan and brilliant sky sea dragon king. Its skinny body hid a terrifying strength. Its eyes were filled with provocation. "Cheongqi, don't be so shameless. Fighting is not allowed here. If you dare to provoke this king again, once we leave the continent, I will destroy you." Brilliant sky sea dragon king said coldly. "Ah, this king is so scared." Cheongqi laughed in disdain. Yi Qinghan frowned and looked at Cheongqi coldly. He didn't understand why Cheongqi had to provoke the brilliant sky sea dragon king if fighting was not allowed here. "What do you want?" Brilliant sky sea dragon king asked. "Nothing much. It's just that seeing humans makes my blood boil. I want to play with them. If I let these two trash crawl through my pants, this king might spare them." Cheongqi grinned. Cheongqi ate humans and didn't treat Yi Qinghan as a human. Or rather, he didn't treat humans as sentient beings. Instead, he treated them as playthings and deliberately played with them. Yi Qinghan was enraged. Cheongqi insulting him was nothing, but he actually dragged Emperor Yi into it. "Ka ka ka." Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. His eyes were cold and his dragon blood boiled. His sector lord aura covered the sky and covered the earth. His soul locked onto Cheongqi and instantly activated the heaven and earth momentum. He looked down at Cheongqi and said coldly, "Cheongqi, even your old ancestor doesn't dare to talk to me like that. You little trash dare to talk to this king like that? Be careful of bringing disaster to your race." Cheongqi's body tensed up as if he was being stared at by a heavenly beast. His blood froze and he retreated a few steps. He maintained a certain distance from Yi Qinghan. His malicious eyes were filled with shock and bewilderment. He wanted to vent his anger to regain his face, but after being stared at by Yi Qinghan, he actually didn't dare to speak anymore. Cheongqi let out a muffled groan before turning around and leaving. He didn't even dare to leave behind a single vicious word. At this moment, not to mention Cheongqi, even the oceanic race kings behind Yi Qinghan were frightened by the aura emanating from his body. This aura was definitely not the aura of a king, but the supreme aura of a sea god, a true deity. In the distance, a young girl who was not very tall had a look of surprise in her eyes. She was as exquisite as a fairy and was extremely beautiful, just like a real human. However, she had a pair of wings on her back. It was obvious that she was not a human and was most likely a bird. Her aura was extremely powerful, and her eyes contained an aura that could suppress the sea of nothingness. She had been attracted by Yi Qinghan's aura. Who are you? Humans don't seem to have a soul as strong as yours. Could it be that you are one of the realm lords of the 7 realms? The girl asked in shock. Yi Qinghan's brows furrowed as he stared at the young girl. He didn't expect that her cultivation had already reached the peak of the pseudo-world overlord realm. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was a world overlord, but he actually didn't know who she was. Have you seen the realm lords of the 7 realms before? Yi Qinghan frowned and asked. I've seen them once. They seemed to be heavily injured and came to the Eastern Ocean to search for the saint medicine of life. It was roughly 3 eras ago. At that time, I was still very young and worshipped them. I hoped that I could hear a few words from them. Unfortunately, they didn't reply. The young girl stared at Yi Qinghan as though she wanted to know Yi Qinghan's identity. Those 7 bastards were crippled by me, Yi Qinghan coldly said. He stared at the young girl and asked coldly, how were their injuries back then? The others had never seen the realm lords of the 7 realms before. 10 million years was an era and 3 eras was 30 million years ago. Here, other than the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King who was from the older generation, the others were all young people, including this young girl. However, their talents were much stronger than the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King. A hero past his prime, in the age of decay. The young girl looked at Yi Qinghan in shock and replied involuntarily. It was as though she didn't dare to go against his will. Yi Qinghan sneered. He finally understood why the realm lords of the 7 realms didn't come out of their seclusion. Even when he used the Great Desolation secret technique, they only used their divine senses to scan their realms. They didn't personally come out to inspect. It turned out that not only did their injuries not improve, they had worsened instead. I'm Jingwei. I have some questions and would like Senior to explain them to me. If you wish me to become a heavenly beast, I will definitely thank you greatly. The young girl bowed and said. Yi Qinghan looked at Jingwei. This girl was already close to the realm lord realm. She just lacked the opportunity. If she wanted to become a heavenly beast, how could it be so easy? Otherwise, this void ocean wouldn't only have 4 heavenly beasts. There would be countless heavenly beasts and even more human realm lords. If you don't have the opportunity, no matter how much I explain to you, it won't be beneficial. Instead, it will drag down your state of mind. If the opportunity comes, everything will be solved. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. The young girl frowned. Obviously, she wasn't willing to accept this answer. This might be the last time in her life that she would see a heavenly beast soul expert. If she missed it, she would miss it forever. Therefore, she hurriedly asked again, Senior, what opportunities do you think I'm lacking? Where should I go to find them? Yi Qinghan pointed to the sky and said in a deep voice, if you want the recognition of the heavens, you naturally have to ask the heavens. Heavenly beasts can't go against the heavens. Learn to communicate with nature, the void ocean, and the heavenly Tao. However, it doesn't mean that you have to submit or disobey. When you understand to that step, you will naturally become the darling of the heavens. The heavenly beast realm is also the realm lord realm for humans. The elite guard's eyes shone brightly. Although she didn't fully understand, she still felt that she was just one step away. She bowed and said, Senior, thank you for your guidance. If one day I become a heavenly beast, I will be willing to serve you several times. Yi Qinghan shook his head and didn't say anything. No matter how strong the elite guard was, it was almost impossible for her to become a true realm lord or a heavenly beast. The hope was too slim. If she were to become a heavenly beast, the structure of the void ocean would change drastically. The heavens and the void ocean might not allow it. Let's go in, Yi Qinghan said to the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King. The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King hurriedly brought Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi into the Sea Clan city. He turned around and glanced at the elite guard. He whispered, "Boss, this elite guard is crazy. Ignore her." Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and sneered, "How can a crazy person cultivate to this step? Aren't all stubborn people crazy? You don't understand. This little brat wants to fill up the void ocean and become a continent. That's why she cultivated so hard and became a heavenly beast. My goodness, how old is she? 3 eras. She is 7 eras away from me. However, her cultivation level is so much higher than mine. If she isn't crazy, then what is?" The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King was helpless. His confidence had been completely destroyed by the elite guard. Emperor Yi pursed his lips and looked at the elite guard standing on the city wall. She was a cute little elf. Why was she so resentful? He asked curiously, what grudge does she have with the void ocean? Why does she want to fill up the void ocean? I heard that she was a princess of a certain world in her previous life. In the end, she escaped to the void ocean. However, she was killed by the void ocean. Her resentment didn't dissipate. After thousands of years, she turned into an elite guard divine bird. She cultivated crazily and swore to fill up the void ocean. The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King whispered. At this moment, it was Yi Qinghan's turn to be shocked. He hurriedly turned around to look at the elite guard. He frowned but didn't discover anything. However, his heart was beating wildly. It was as if he had an inexplicable connection with the elite guard. Chapter 1433. Yi Qinghan's heart pounded uncontrollably as he stared at Jing Wei. He was certain that this girl was related to him. Jing Wei, which dynasty's princess were you in your past life? Yi Qinghan turned to Jing Wei and asked in a deep voice. However, Jing Wei shook her head and said in a daze, "Senior, I don't remember. I only heard about my past life from others." Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. Back then, he had a daughter and only one descendant. After he died in battle, the little princess, Huang Zian, was taken away by Yen Ao. According to his speculations, since Yen Ao died in battle in the Great Wasteland domain, Huang Zian should have died as well. It was impossible for her to escape to the Void Sea. "Can you come over and let me see?" Yi Qinghan's voice trembled. His eyes were filled with love as if he was a father. No matter what Jing Wei's cultivation was, Yi Qinghan was old enough to be her father. Jing Wei was shocked by the tenderness and love in Yi Qinghan's eyes. She had been an orphan ever since she could remember. She was a divine bird of the Jing Wei. The world was her home, so she had never experienced a father's love. Yi Qinghan's hands were trembling as he reached out towards the guard. He looked at her expectantly, hoping that he could investigate her past and present life. If she really was Huang Zian's reincarnation, he would probably go crazy with excitement. Jing Wei's figure flashed and appeared not far from Yi Qinghan. She walked towards the 3 people step by step. Her eyes were filled with doubt and vigilance. She did not understand what Yi Qinghan wanted to do. "Child, can you trust me? Let me see your past life and the depths of your soul," Yi Qinghan asked expectantly. Jing Wei quickly took a step back and shook her head. Although she was not angry, she did not allow Yi Qinghan to see her soul. "I am the father of the Great Wasteland. So far, only the Great Desolate Dynasty has fallen, and only the Great Desolate's only princess, Huang Zian, has managed to escape. If your background is true," Yi Qinghan explained in a hoarse voice, hoping that the guard would cooperate. However, this was handing her life over to someone else. How could she agree? That's just the nonsense of others. "Senior, you don't have to take it seriously," the elite guard said firmly. The elite guard was clearly not prepared to cooperate with Yi Qinghan, but she couldn't be blamed. Yi Qinghan's soul spirit was simply too strong. Once she gave up on defense and allowed him to invade, even a sector lord would be killed by him. Moreover, she wasn't even a sector lord yet. Yi Qinghan was dejected. To deal with the elite guards, he definitely could not use force. Even if he forced her, he would not be able to beat her. He could only leave this matter for later. "Jing Wei, let me tell you what a sector lord is. It is also the heavenly beasts that you all speak of. They are invincible existences in the 9-world sky. They can mobilize the world for their own use. This is the heavenly Tao that you all speak of. Who in this world can compare to the heavenly Tao? Even a sector lord cannot compare to it. However, you can interact with it as an equal. A sector lord can mobilize the world, and the world will cooperate with the sector lord. It is the same for heavenly beasts. If you want to become a heavenly beast, you must become one with the void ocean and let it acknowledge you. In this world, anything or the heavenly Tao, although they do not have souls, they have order. If you want to understand them, you must comprehend their order. Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice softly. The elite guard's eyes lit up. She was somewhat happy. Yi Qinghan's words were like a bright light in the darkness. She found the path to the sector lord realm. Thank you, senior. Thank you. The elite guard clenched her small fist and said, once you understand what order is, what is the order of the heavenly Tao, what is the order of the void ocean, then you will understand what a sector lord is. A sector lord can use order for their own use. They can build their own order on top of their order. With a thought, it will be the meaning of the world. When you reach the sector lord realm, you will understand. When a sector lord wants to kill you, it is actually a matter of thought. However, your speed exceeds the speed of thought and you will be able to dodge their killing move. The only difference between you and them now is that you cannot use the heavenly Tao or the order of the void ocean to evolve your own order. Yi Qinghan reminded her again. The elite guard was deep in thought. She kept nodding her head. Yi Qinghan looked at the elite guard. It seemed like he was really treating her as his daughter. Even if she wasn't, teaching her now wasn't a bad thing. Go back and cultivate. The void ocean is you, and you are the void ocean. Its order is fierce and violent. Its interior is also filled with gentleness. There is love and hatred. There is wind and there is calmness. It is a contradictory body. When you comprehend its rules, you will be the fifth heavenly beast. However, your strength will be stronger than them. This is because they are heavenly beasts recognized by the heavens and earth. They didn't comprehend it on their own. Yi Qinghan's eyes were filled with hope. The elite guard bowed deeply. She turned and left. She spread her wings and turned into a gust of wind. She quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. No one knew what they were talking about. However, everyone saw the powerful elite guard bow to Yi Qinghan. This meant that Yi Qinghan was worthy of respect. Fei Qiongqi, who was standing far away, snorted and said, "Stop trying to be mysterious. You are just a rookie with a powerful soul. If I give you the body of a baby, so what if you have the body of a god? Wait until you leave the sea and land. I will kill you." Yi Qinghan looked in the direction the elite guard left. He slowly turned around and walked towards the center of the city with the brilliant sky sea dragon king. Emperor Yi followed Yi Qinghan thoughtfully. After hearing about the elite guard's legend, he could guess why Yi Qinghan was so excited. This elite guard was very likely the princess of the Great Wilderness Dynasty. Yi Qinghan was the Great Wilderness War Master and the only emperor. This elite guard was very likely to be Yi Qinghan's daughter. Time can clear up many mysteries. The truth will come out. Emperor Yi said faintly. Yi Qinghan nodded. They traversed through the wide streets. This was a street from the primitive era. It was originally designed to deal with some powerful sea demons. Hence, the rocks here were comparable to the materials of a supreme god artifact. They were very hard to destroy. However, it was hard to defend against the destruction of pseudo-world lord-level sea beasts. Hence, Sealand City strictly forbade sea beasts from killing each other. Once they did, they would be killed instantly. Regardless of sea dragons or other sea races, they were treated equally. It was unknown how long the tall buildings had existed. However, it was very certain that it was not the same building that Yi Qinghan had visited before. It had been destroyed at least once. However, one could still find traces of it. There were many sea races trading on the streets. They would trade the treasures they found for other treasures. Some races were different and naturally needed different treasures. They all knew which treasures they needed. Yi Qinghan's eyes scanned the treasures in the hands of the sea races. He hoped to find what he wanted. Emperor Yi was also searching. He discovered many level 10 and above divine medicines. Substandard origin holy stones were used as the basic currency. Suddenly, Yi Qinghan pulled Emperor Yi back. He gestured with his mouth. In front of them, there was a huge stone filled with world energy. It was extremely dense and was spreading in all directions. It was a huge world stone. If it was split, it could be divided into more than 100 world stones. However, the sea races did not seem to like using world energy. They preferred to comprehend primordial energy. Hence, the world stone was left in front of a shop. Chapter 1434. A great realm stone weighing several kilograms was left in front of the shop with no one interested in it. If it was in the 9 realms, people would have fought for it. Emperor Yi was dumbfounded. Indeed, different races required different treasures. Myriad Race Treasure Hall. Yi Qinghan looked at the shop's name and couldn't help but look at the brilliant sky Sea Dragon King. The shops here would definitely bully outsiders and demand an exorbitant price. If he went there, he wouldn't be able to get the Great Realm Stone without paying a price. However, the brilliant sky Sea Dragon King was a bit embarrassed. He turned his head and said, "The owner of this shop fought with me before. He's also from the Sea Dragon race. I'm afraid that if I go, the price will be even more expensive. Wait outside the shop. We'll go and ask about the price," Yi Qinghan said calmly. With that, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi quickly walked towards the treasure hall. The hall was brightly lit and illuminated. Luminous pearls and pearls were hung everywhere. The oceanic race liked bright things. Even useful gold was hung in the corners of the walls. It looked like a treasure trove. There were many members of the oceanic race in the hall. They came in all shapes and sizes, and their bodies were different. Some were even natural enemies. However, they got along very well here. When Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi appeared in the hall, they quickly attracted the attention of the oceanic race. Many female cultivators of the oceanic race were startled and revealed expressions of adoration. The oceanic race were more open. If they liked something, they could mate after leaving the city. Seaquakes could be seen everywhere. Therefore, there were many more races in the oceanic race than humans. It wasn't strange for strange creatures to appear frequently. Humans. It was as if they had discovered a new continent. They cried out in surprise. Some female cultivators of the oceanic race looked at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi as playthings. They were drooling. "Haha, I haven't seen humans for many years. What a handsome young master. Are you interested in dual cultivation? I can let you do it." A flirtatious female cultivator of the oceanic race exposed her body. Her breasts were faintly discernible. She had an exotic charm that made men's hormones erupt. She took a few steps forward and stretched out her hand to touch Emperor Yi's face. Emperor Yi grunted and took a step back, ignoring her. The sea race female cultivator was stunned. The sea races all said that human men were animals that thought with their lower bodies. They were so lustful that they wouldn't be able to walk away if they met a woman of the highest quality. Her looks were absolutely top-notch, her cultivation was formidable, and her temperament was outstanding. Even so, she still wasn't able to attract Emperor Yi's attention. Emperor Yi was a woman, and she was even better than her. How could he be attracted to her? Yi Qinghan looked at the sea race female cultivator calmly. She was definitely not young. Her cultivation had reached the king realm, but she was about the same as the brilliant sky Sea Dragon King. However, he could not tell what her true form was. What a stubborn little human brother. I like men with such a strong personality, the sea race female cultivator said with a lewd smile. Silver Snake, maybe they like strong men like me. Why don't you give these 2 humans to me? A tall and sturdy man over 2 meters tall spoke. His legs were like pillars and he had already completely transformed. His cultivation was definitely at the king realm. His voice was deep and resounding like thunder, deafening to the ears. He looked at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi with a covetous expression. Get lost. Once I take a fancy to someone, no one can escape. Either you become my man or you become a dead man. The Silver Snake female cultivator coldly said. Thence were also primitive divine beasts. However, their cultivation was very low. They should be the bloodline descendants of the first generation of giant primitive beasts. Although he looked powerful, he still hadn't offended the silver snake. One could imagine that this silver snake female cultivator's background wasn't simple. They all regarded Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi as prey. They all stared at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. Yi Qinghan didn't look at them. He came to the counter and asked indifferently, "How much is the world stone outside?" The servant guarding the counter was half human and half fiend. It could be seen that his cultivation wasn't too high. He definitely hadn't reached the king realm. However, he was arrogant and clearly looked down on Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. World stones and origin sacred stones are naturally equivalent. 1 kilogram of world stones can be exchanged for 1 kilogram of high-grade origin sacred stones. The servant lazily said, "Oh, you little thing, you really know how to rip people off. Can't you see that they are my people? How dare you ask for such a sky-high price?" The silver snake female cultivator's voice was cold. She stared at the servant and coldly said. The servant's expression changed slightly. He bowed and said, "Respected Lady Silver Snake, this rule was set by the hallmaster. I can't make the decision." The silver snake female cultivator's aura instantly turned cold. The surrounding temperature became even colder. She said quietly, "Do you think I don't understand that old man? That plaything has been outside for thousands of years. Even now, no one cares about it. Give him 1 kilogram of high-grade origin sacred stones and he will deliver the world stone to me like a fur seal. I have been friends with him for tens of thousands of years. You actually use him to trick me. Do you want to die?" The servant bitterly smiled. It was obvious that Yi Qinghan wasn't the silver snake. Of course he had to be killed. However, the silver snake was actually speaking up for a human. He couldn't get rich. The origin sacred stone Yi Qinghan obtained was slightly better than a high-grade one. However, it wasn't a top-grade one. He estimated that it could be exchanged for 10 kilograms of high-grade origin sacred stone. At this moment, he looked at the silver snake. If she could help him exchange 2 kilograms of high-grade origin sacred stone for so many world stones outside, that would naturally be for the best. There was no need to care about the silver snake's intentions. In this city, she couldn't overturn the heavens. At this time, the silver snake looked at Yi Qinghan with a lewd smile. She twisted her slender waist. She was so soft and delicate that she seemed boneless. She arrived beside Yi Qinghan in 2 steps. She reached out and hooked her arm around Yi Qinghan's chest. She smiled faintly and said, "Little human brother, how should I address you?" Yi Qinghan greets Lady Silver Snake. Yi Qinghan took a step back and cupped his fists. "I'll help you buy that world stone. How will you repay me?" The silver snake female cultivator stared at Yi Qinghan and asked expectantly. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and took out the origin sacred stone. The primordial energy was extremely dense, and its grade was extremely high. The surrounding oceanic species were all drooling over it. Although it wasn't of the highest grade and wasn't saturated, it was still attractive enough to the oceanic species. "Lady Silver Snake, if you buy the world stone, I'll use this origin sacred stone to exchange for it," Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. The silver snake female cultivator was surprised at first. Then, she calmed down and said indifferently, "It's a pretty good origin sacred stone. However, I don't want the origin sacred stone. What I want is you. You 2 men, accompany me for a night. How about that?" The silver snake was charming. If it were any other man, they would have already pounced on her. However, Emperor Yi was a woman. How could he pounce on her? As for Yi Qinghan, if Emperor Yi wasn't here, he wouldn't care. However, in front of Emperor Yi, he didn't want to be so bad. He wanted to leave a pure land for Emperor Yi. "Lady Silver Snake, why are you forcing us?" Yi Qinghan said helplessly. "Haha, interesting. The more difficult it is, the more interesting it is. Since you don't want it, I'll take it from you. You can take that world stone. I can still afford 2 high-grade sacred stones." The silver snake female cultivator said indifferently. Chapter 1435. The silver snake purposely threw 2 high-grade origin sacred stones to the servant and let Yi Qinghan take the world stone. Yi Qinghan was naturally unwilling to accept this goodwill. He casually tossed the origin sacred stone in his hand to the silver snake. Then he turned around and left the precious treasure hall with Renhuang Yi. Yi Qinghan took the world stone, but in the blink of an eye, the silver snake threw the origin sacred stone back. Yi Qinghan took it with him. He couldn't react in time. After all, the silver snake's cultivation was very strong. Yi Qinghan didn't want to continue fighting with the silver snake. He left the Hall of Treasures with Emperor Yi. The female cultivator with the silver snake walked out as well. She stared at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Ye's backs with a smile. The brilliant sky sea dragon king noticed the silver snake's special gaze and felt a chill. Let's go. How did you provoke that perverted snake? None of the people she fancied were able to escape. Their life essence was sucked dry and they became dried corpses, the brilliant sky sea dragon king said in a low voice. Being handsome is also a sin. Yi Qinghan shook his head and smiled bitterly. Stop fooling around. Just looking at that silver snake sent chills down my spine. I can't help but feel my hair stand on end. Let's hurry up and leave this place. After Emperor Yi finished speaking, he pulled Yi Qinghan and walked forward. The three left the street, but they didn't leave the silver snake's line of sight. The silver snake was not far behind Yi Qinghan and the others. It didn't seem to want to give up. According to the brilliant sky sea dragon king's understanding, this silver snake had the strongest genes of both snakes and the Oceanids. She had a high cultivation level and combat power. She was also very intelligent and cunning. In order to catch a prey, she could guard it for months or even a year. Yi Qinghan didn't care at first. He just looked at the Oceanids trading on the streets. He found many treasures. With the brilliant sky sea dragon leading the way, they didn't ask for sky-high prices. The origin sacred stone was exchanged for nearly 20 kilograms of high-grade sacred stones. They were all used to buy the Oceanids' divine medicine. After strolling for 2 days, the origin sacred stone was completely used up. Some of the brilliant sky sea dragon's high-grade sacred stones were also used. This was only the outer city. They hadn't seen anything good in the inner city. Yi Qinghan naturally didn't want to give up. After thinking for a long time, he couldn't think of a good idea. If they left the continent to search for the origin sacred stone, they would waste a lot of time. And get rid of the silver snake. There. At that moment, the silver snake female cultivator quietly appeared behind Yi Qinghan. Her speed was simply too fast. Even if Yi Qinghan discovered her, he had no way of intercepting her. But the silver snake's jade-like hand pressed on Yi Qinghan's butt. She said flirtatiously, "Little brother Yi, are you out of origin sacred stones? If you don't have any, you can ask me. I'll give you anything you want, including my body." Yi Qinghan's body tensed up. He took a step forward and looked back at the silver snake's greedy eyes. He pretended to be calm and smiled. "I don't lack origin sacred stones. I'll have to trouble Lady Silver Snake." "Sigh, why do you always reject me? I want to help you with good intentions." The silver snake twisted her waist. She was so soft and gentle that it made people restless. "Go away. We don't need your help." Emperor Yi glared at the silver snake and said in a low voice, "Hey, little brother, don't be so angry. I won't eat you. At most, you'll eat me." The silver snake looked at Emperor Yi as if she was looking at a treasure. She was drooling. The silver snake was hard to deal with. He couldn't shake her off. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Although this fellow wasn't one of the 12 evil beasts, she was even more terrifying than Qiongqi and the others. It was impossible to guard against her. Even Qiongqi had to avoid her. "We're going to the inner city to auction some things," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Hee, what a coincidence. I want to go to the auction hall too." The silver snake clung on tightly, unwilling to leave. Yi Qinghan shrugged and didn't say anything else. He left with Emperor Yi and the brilliant sky sea dragon king. The silver snake followed closely and quickly entered the inner city. The inner city was bustling. The weakest sea beast was at the paramount god level. Giant gods didn't even have the right to enter. The number of half-human half-demon experts decreased by 90%. Those who appeared were all top-tier shapeshifting experts or experts from the oceanic race's intelligent race. With the Silver Snake and the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King by their side, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi didn't make things difficult for them. They even took the initiative to hide, not wanting to have anything to do with the Silver Snake. Along the way, the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King used both hard and soft tactics in hopes that the Silver Snake would leave. However, the Silver Snake was like a piece of sticky candy. She wouldn't budge. She stuck to the three of them. Yi Qinghan didn't care. Even if the Silver Snake wanted to make a move, she would have to wait until they left the oceanic race's continent. She was absolutely safe in the city. Plus, with her around, they could avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble. Emperor Yi felt uncomfortable all over. As a woman, no matter how charming the Silver Snake was, she could only feel disgust, not admiration. There were powerful geniuses and terrifying races here. There were some races that even the Silver Snake didn't dare to provoke because they were rare. However, their leaders were existences that surpassed kings. They were extremely protective of their own. If they killed the younger generation of those monstrous races, they could forget about surviving in the void ocean. There were also some geniuses whose cultivation surpassed the Silver Snake's. Even if they made it, the Silver Snake wouldn't be able to absorb their essence. However, dual cultivation was a win-win situation. Sometimes, the Silver Snake would be the one at a disadvantage. Very quickly, they ran into the Silver Snake's enemy. A handsome young king walked over to Yi Qinghan's group with a smile. "Ah, my little Silver Snake, you're interested in humans again. Are you interested in playing some more?" The young king's aura was very powerful. His entire body was filled with explosive power. Ordinary sea beasts didn't dare to approach him. "Humph, you think I'm afraid of you? But I don't have time today. Let's do it another day." The charming Silver Snake's expression changed. It was no longer flirtatious but rather cold. The young king indifferently glanced at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. He didn't care and even looked a little disdainful. He then walked around the two of them and came to the Silver Snake female cultivator's side. He stretched out his hand and stroked her slender white legs. With a sinister expression, he said, "I've been thinking about you for a long time. When you leave the void ocean, don't run away. You won't be able to escape from me." The Silver Snake female cultivator's expression immediately changed. She said in a low voice, "I already said that I've been busy recently. When I miss this period of time, I'll take the initiative to look for you. Is that all right?" "I'll take you whenever I want," the young king said in a domineering manner. The corners of the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King's mouth curled into a slight smile. With this fellow causing trouble, the Silver Snake should no longer bother Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. This young king is from the Broken Sea tribe, which is extremely rare among the top 10. He's also one of the top 10 young kings of the Sea Dragon Weave. His name is Broken Wind. With him around, you won't have to worry about the Silver Snake pestering you. The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King gloated as he transmitted a voice transmission to Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1436. The Silver Snake female cultivator had no choice but to temporarily disappear, leaving Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi, and the others behind. Pafeng watched the Silver Snake female cultivator escape. He looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi and said disdainfully, "Ants, stay away from the Silver Snake. Otherwise, I will bury you in the void ocean." Emperor Yi curled his lips and snorted softly. "She is the one who is bothering us." Yi Qinghan smiled and shook his head. He did not mind Pafeng's disdain. At least he had helped get rid of the Silver Snake, who was difficult to deal with. "Let's go to the auction hall." Yi Qinghan did not reply to Pafeng. He just left. Pafeng frowned and stared at Yi Qinghan's back. A cold light flashed. He snorted and turned to leave. In a side hall of the auction hall, Yi Qinghan was writing something with his brush. It seemed like he was writing some secret technique. Emperor Yi and the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King glanced at the cover. They saw that the words were actually ancient characters. Even the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King, who had lived for so long, could not recognize the words. What's the ocean? What's the sky? The brilliant sky sea dragon king murmured. He could only recognize a portion of the words, and he found that Yi Qinghan's words carried a thick sense of nothingness. It was as if he could see the endless ocean of nothingness, the laws of the world, and the roaring ocean of nothingness. Hissed at the brilliant sky sea dragon king sucked in a cold breath. His divine sense hurt, and his soul shook. It was as if he had seen something he should not have. He quickly turned his head away. Emperor Ye's soul was one with the world. He did not feel uncomfortable, but he could not understand it. He could only see the majestic aura between the lines. It was as if he could understand the rules of the void ocean. It was as if he could control the rules and profound of the void ocean if he could understand it. Hoo-hoo-hoo, the wind howled in the sky. Strange phenomena appeared. Dark clouds covered the sky and rain poured down. It covered the land and sea. Yi Qinghan seemed to be able to summon the wind and rain with a wave of his brush. His aura soared. "What are you writing?" Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King asked in shock. Yi Qinghan did not reply. He continued to write at the door. After more than 2 hours, more than 10 secret techniques appeared. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and said, "The vast ocean swallowing heaven technique is the most precious secret technique of your Bai's sacred clan." Bai's Saint Clan? The sacred race that is rumored to be able to control the fate of the world? The brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King asked in shock. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Yes, Bai Zai isn't in the void ocean, but it can control the void ocean. I heard that it's a sacred object that was born with the 9 worlds." Later, Bai Zai disappeared, and only the collateral bloodline could replace it to control the world's fate. Bai Zai left the collateral bloodline the first part of the legend of swallowing the heavens in the vast ocean, the wind and cloud chapter, the rain summoning chapter, and the rules chapter. However, it didn't leave behind the fate chapter. I happen to know about the first 3 chapters, and this chapter is the wind and cloud chapter. I believe that as long as one is a member of the sea race, they would do anything to get their hands on it. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Damn, you can even get your hands on this?" Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King said in shock. This legend of swallowing the vast ocean was obtained by Yi Qinghan before he reached the Sector Lord realm. It was precisely because he obtained the vast ocean swallowing the heavens that he cultivated the rules chapter and accidentally comprehended it, allowing him to reach the Supreme Sector Lord realm. There was no need to explain its effects. It's a pity that I didn't obtain the fate chapter. Otherwise, I could perfect my own world and become a true creator god. Yi Qinghan said helplessly. World overlords were all capable of creating their own world. Yi Qinghan's world back then wasn't perfect enough to give birth to powerful life forms. There were only some microscopic organisms living in it. Humans could also hide in it, but they weren't able to be born on their own. If his world was perfected, powerful life forms or humans could be born. Once he reached the level of a creator god, he would be able to transcend nature and live eternally. As long as the world wasn't destroyed, he wouldn't be destroyed. The cultivation of the 7 world overlords was inferior to Yi Qinghan. It was even more impossible for their worlds to give birth to powerful experts. However, after so many years, Yi Qinghan's world was destroyed while the worlds of the 7 world overlords were preserved until today. Maybe, their worlds had already given birth to humans or life forms. Once life forms were born, the world would change. It would be like the 9 worlds' heavens. It would cycle on its own and the spiritual energy wouldn't be extinguished. Their injuries would be healed by their worlds. Fate. The most important thing for a cultivator was fate. Even a trash could become a god if his fate was good enough. The fate chapter that allowed one to control fate. Perhaps, other than Bai Zai, no one else would be able to understand it. So world overlords can really have their own worlds. Then, are the sea creatures of the void ocean living in Lord Heavenly Beast's world? Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King murmured. Yi Qinghan shook his head without hesitation and said indifferently, "No, each world is relatively independent. If the 9 worlds heavens is a world, it wouldn't be connected to the Heavenly Beast's child world. However, this place is connected. This only means that the void ocean and the 9 worlds heavens are still in the same big world. Then, Is our big world a world created by a creator god? Are we living in the body of a god? Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King asked in shock. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and frowned. Then he said unconfidently, "That's impossible. The war of the Great Desolation almost destroyed this big world. If there really was a creator god, he would have stopped it. Moreover, this world clearly has a ruler. However, he can't do as he pleases. If there really was a creator god, he could do as he pleases. He could even kill a world overlord with a single thought. There was no need to waste so much time and use such a treacherous plan to kill me." "Oh," Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King said thoughtfully. Yi Qinghan clearly didn't believe that this big world was created by someone else. It was already so difficult for a world overlord to create a small world. It couldn't even give birth to a person. However, the 9 worlds heavens could give birth to so many creatures. If there really was a creator god, how abnormal would that person be? Thinking of this, Yi Qinghan shook his head and threw away these distracting thoughts. Let's go auction the Wind and Cloud chapter. Hopefully, someone can recognize it and sell it for a good price. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King was extremely excited. This was a legendary item passed down by the sacred clan. It was clearly the real deal. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan wouldn't have caused such a terrifying phenomenon when he raised the brush. Yi Qinghan gave the Wind and Cloud chapter to Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King so that he could use it to communicate with the people in the auction hall. This was to avoid unnecessary trouble. First, an ordinary supreme god of the oceanic race received the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King. However, he was chased away. Tell your chief deacon and appraiser to come personally. Tell them that there is a big treasure waiting for them. Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King shouted majestically. Soon, an ordinary deacon came. He was in existence with a powerful cultivation base. He looked at the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King with disdain and said coldly, "Brilliant Sky, you're regressing with age. After so many years, you haven't improved at all. Now, you're here to cause trouble. Don't you feel ashamed?" Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King's expression turned ugly. In terms of age, he might be a sea dragon second only to the elders and patriarchs. However, in terms of cultivation base, he definitely couldn't be ranked. He was often humiliated by the experts of the oceanic race. However, the number of times he was publicly humiliated like this old man was few. Chapter 1437. Yao Tian's talent was indeed bad, otherwise, he wouldn't be stuck at pseudo-realm lord realm. If not for the strong vitality of the sea dragon race, he would have died of old age. However, he was still a king, the leader of his bloodline. How could he be humiliated like this in public? Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't want Yao Tian to have such a low status in the inner city. This old man was clearly a sea dragon, and he wasn't as old as Yao Tian. However, he still pointed at Yao Tian's nose and scolded him. This was simply too much. At this moment, he didn't know how to restrain himself and instead arrogantly said, "Speak, with your cultivation, what treasures can you auction? Our auction hall doesn't accept trash." Yao Tian gnashed his teeth in anger. He didn't know how many times he had been humiliated by these experts. Therefore, he spent most of his time sleeping, making him look younger. "Aori, you're going too far. Why can't I take out treasures to auction? How can you talk about your elders like this? I'm still your grandfather." Yao Tian angrily roared. Aori looked at Yao Tian with disdain and sneered, "What? You want to use your age to suppress me? Look at the clan, who treats you as an elder. If you have something, then take it out. If you don't, then scram. Don't delay the auction hall's business." His words were vicious, but the other experts only looked at him with schadenfreude. Only Yi Qinghan's eyes were filled with anger. How could his little brother be humiliated like this? Yao Tian's body was trembling uncontrollably. However, this place didn't allow fighting and he couldn't scold the other party, so he could only stare. Yi Qinghan suddenly regretted not bringing the divine bird with him. If the divine bird was here, then Aori wouldn't be able to be so arrogant. Don't lower yourself to his level. Take out the Wind and Cloud chapter and let him open his dog eyes. His dog eyes will only look down on people. Yi Qinghan coldly said. Who are you scolding, you ant? You dare to be arrogant in the oceanic continent? Are you tired of living? Ao Ri stared at Yi Qinghan, his eyes flashing with a cold light. I don't understand barking. Please speak the common language of the continent. Yi Qinghan replied coldly. Pumph. Ao Ri suddenly stood up. His powerful aura pressed down on Yi Qinghan. Terrifying soul fluctuations rushed into Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. Yi Qinghan was a world overlord soul. If he was injured by a fake world overlord soul, that would be the greatest joke in the world. Yi Qinghan swept up a torrential amount of soul energy and directly enveloped Ao Ri's soul that had entered his sea of consciousness. With an unstoppable momentum, he crushed Ao Ri's soul into smithereens. Boom! Poof! Ao Ri seemed to suffer a heavy blow. His soul was severely wounded and he spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His body involuntarily fell backwards. A tiny ant dares to behave atrociously in front of me? If your clan leader was here, perhaps I would respectfully address him as elder brother. As for you, Scram, tell your head deacon to come out, Yi Qinghan said coldly without moving. There were a lot of experts standing in the hall. Even the weakest of them was a paramount god. There were no less than 20 kings. At this moment, they were all staring at Yi Qinghan with shock in their eyes. To be able to destroy a king's soul in an instant, one had to be at least a peak king. But no matter how they looked at it, Yi Qinghan was a paramount god. Ao Ri spat out another mouthful of blood. His face was pale and he almost reverted back to his original form. He looked at Yi Qinghan with anger and roared, You human scum, you actually dared to attack a sea dragon deacon in the oceanic continent. I'll destroy you. Yi Qinghan looked at Ao Ri with disdain and coldly reminded, I advise you to go back and recuperate your soul. Otherwise, your realm will fall below rank 10 and you won't even be able to transform. Ao Ri's expression changed. He could feel his soul weakening. It was as if there was an inexplicable force corroding his soul. However, he didn't know that Yi Qinghan was a realm lord and could attack his soul directly through his soul. At this moment, there was already a great desolate force wreaking havoc in his soul. If he didn't recuperate in time, not to mention losing a rank, it would be good if he could even keep his life. Just you wait. Ao Ri left behind these ruthless words and turned around to leave. With such a big matter happening in the hall, it naturally attracted the attention of the upper echelons of the auction hall. At this moment, on the 3rd floor, a powerful old man was staring at Yi Qinghan with doubt in his eyes. The old man looked down at Yi Qinghan and calmly said, Your Excellency's soul is very strong. You should be a perfection realm soul. If you didn't teach Ao Ri a lesson, even this old man would have misjudged you. Yi Qinghan indifferently replied, This Ao Ri has no respect for his elders. He was arrogant and despotic. I only taught him a lesson on behalf of my seniors. I hope you don't take offense. The old man silently said, There will be no next time. Even if a sea dragon makes a mistake, it should be my sea dragon clan that teaches him a lesson. Since you have some dragon bloodline, this old man won't bicker with you. Yi Qinghan was somewhat startled. He hadn't even made a move and his dragon bloodline hadn't been stimulated. But this old man was able to sense it. It seems like this old man was hiding his strength. At this moment, the brilliant sky sea dragon king didn't dare to say anything. Although he was in existence of the same era as this old man, the years of suppression had already worn down his arrogance. He could only resign himself to the situation. Speak, what do you want to auction? The old man indifferently asked. The White Fin Saint clan's legend of the vast sea swallowing the heavens. I wonder if Senior is interested? Yi Qinghan was very low-key as he asked. What did you say? The old man thought that he had misheard and repeated himself. The White Fin Saint clan's legend of the vast sea swallowing the heavens, wind and cloud chapter. You didn't mishear. Yi Qinghan confirmed. At this moment, the old man's eyes were filled with shock. He waved his hand and brought Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi, and Yao Tian to the 3rd floor. Come in, the old man said in a low voice. After that, the old man led the three into a private room. The room was filled with golden light and jewels. It was like a nouveau riche, but it didn't lose its elegance. Yi Qinghan looked around and discovered that there were a lot of human landscape paintings, star maps, luminous cups, and even some things from the Great Desolate Realm. There was even a faint trace of the Great Desolate Realm's power. My name is Yao Guang, I am Yao Tian's cousin. The old man slowly sat on the main seat and looked at the three. He extended his hand and said, "Let me see the Wind and Cloud chapter. If it is indeed the Wind and Cloud chapter, I will buy it privately. Naturally, I won't treat you badly." Yi Qinghan didn't want to sell this for a high price. He only wanted to exchange it for some treasures. After all, he had already learned this secret technique and memorized it in his heart. It was useless to keep it in his hands. Therefore, he gave the Wind and Cloud chapter to Yao Guang. Yao Guang carefully looked at the Wind and Cloud chapter. He could tell that it was newly written. However, the words contained the laws and profundities of the sea. It was filled with the highest order of the world. He was sure that this Wind and Cloud chapter was real. Yao Guang took a deep breath and closed the Wind and Cloud chapter. He pressed it on the table and stared at Yi Qinghan. He asked in a deep voice, "This old man has underestimated you. May I ask who you are?" Chapter 1438. Yao Guang's eyes were full of doubts as he looked at Yi Qinghan. He discovered that he had underestimated the other party. Just by looking at the Wind and Cloud chapter, he knew that Yi Qinghan's soul didn't increase due to a fortuitous encounter. Instead, he was the reincarnation of a true almighty being. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently and said, "We've just met by chance. There's no need to ask about my origin. If fellow Taoist is interested in the Wind and Cloud chapter, then you can quote a price. If possible, then I'll sell it to you as a way to make friends. The White Fan Saint clan's cultivation method is priceless. I can't quote a price. Fellow Taoist can quote a price. If I can afford it, then I won't frown." Yao Guang straightforwardly said. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and then said, 500,000 kilograms of high-grade origin sacred stones, 1,000 kilograms of level 10 divine herbs, 100 kilograms of level 11 saint herbs, and 3 level 12 supreme saint herbs. As long as you can satisfy my request, then I'll give the White Fan Saint clan's rain summoning chapter to you after I leave the Void Ocean. You still have the rain summoning chapter? What about the laws? What about the luck chapter? Yao Guang stood up in shock and stared at Yi Qinghan expectantly. Yi Qinghan smiled and replied, "I don't have the luck chapter. That kind of thing relies on luck. I don't think anyone in the world has this kind of luck. Aside from the White Fan Saint clan, no one else can get it. As for the laws, I can give you a price, but your Sea Dragon clan can't afford it. After all, it can make you heavenly beasts. As long as you have the laws, then I'll ask the Sea Dragon Patriarch to come out of seclusion and satisfy your request." Yao Guang excitedly said, "Let's deal with the Wind and Cloud chapter first. We'll talk about the laws when I want to leave the Void Ocean." Yi Qinghan was very calm. He didn't want to give away the most important things. As long as the Sea Dragons don't have the laws and rain summoning chapter, then they would naturally protect him in the Void Ocean. Yao Guang frowned at first, but he quickly thought it through. Yi Qinghan's soul was indeed powerful, but his cultivation base and realm were too low. He hadn't reached the King realm yet, so he didn't have the ability to protect himself in the Void Ocean. Naturally, he would hold back, but no one could force him to do so. "Fellow Taoist Yi, I'll satisfy your request as soon as possible. For the time being, I'll stay in the auction hall." Yao Guang took a deep breath and looked at the brilliant sky Sea Dragon King. There was finally some emotion in his eyes as he said, "Third brother, take good care of brother Yi. I'll report this merit to the Patriarch. As for that bastard Ao Ri who humiliated his elders, I'll deal with him. You can rest assured." Sure enough, when it was useful, even the weakest person would be a treasure. At this time, Yao Guang hoped that Yi Qinghan would give Yao Guang some face and give him the laws so that the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King's status would rise. When did the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King have such face? His face immediately glowed as he smiled foolishly. Yi Qinghan smiled but didn't say anything. He had a tacit understanding of this matter. However, he also secretly decided that before he left, he would raise the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King's cultivation. Although the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King's talent wasn't good, he had a pure heart. His feelings for Yi Qinghan weren't fake. After so many years, he still treated Yi Qinghan as a brother even when Yi Qinghan's cultivation was still weak. Such a person was worth cherishing. After Yao Guang left, he first announced that Ao Ri would be expelled from the Sea Race continent. If his cultivation wasn't at the peak of the King realm, then he would never be able to enter the Sea Race continent again. This decision had basically extinguished Ao Ri's hopes of returning to the Sea Race continent. Ao Ri's complexion paled. He couldn't understand why Brilliant Light would give such an order. For better or worse, he was the leader of his race. How could he possibly expel him from the Sea Race continent for 2 humans and that trash, the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King? Moreover, he would never be allowed to return to the Sea Race continent. No. Third grandfather, I've done my best for the Sea Dragon clan. You can't do this. Just kill those 2 ants in that waste. Ao Ri angrily roared. You don't know the difference between life and death. Scram for this king. If you dare to speak nonsense again, this king will directly kill you. Yao Guang coldly said. At this time, Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi, and the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King appeared on the 3rd floor. They stood at Yao Guang's side as they looked down at Ao Ri. Ao Ri looked at Yi Qinghan with hatred. He was sure that it was because of Yi Qinghan that Yao Guang exiled him. As for that waste Yao Tian, it was impossible for him to change Yao Guang's will. Hence, you actually dared to harm me. Ao Ri angrily roared. I've overestimated you. Even a dog can distinguish between the strong and the weak. But you're nothing but a fool. Even at this time, you still don't know the difference between life and death. You can't blame anyone else for seeking your own death. Yi Qinghan coldly said. Fellow Taoist, are you satisfied with exiling Ao Ri? If you still can't get rid of your anger, then just kill him. Yao Guang indifferently said. It was as if killing Ao Ri was nothing more than killing an ant. The Sea Dragon race was indeed worthy of being one of the strongest races of the Sea Race. They even gave up on a king-rank expert. Ao Ri's pupils shrank as he looked at Yi Qinghan and Yao Guang in horror. The people in the auction hall were also surprised as they looked at Yi Qinghan. They didn't think that his identity would make Yao Guang compromise to this extent. Could it be that he was the illegitimate child of a heavenly beast? Forget it, let him live. Let him wander the sea and experience despair. Yi Qinghan coldly smiled as he looked at Ao Ri. Being exiled to the sea and never being able to return to the Sea Race's continent might make him feel even more despair than killing him. When Ao Ri heard this, he immediately turned around and left. His eyes were filled with resentment and hatred as he roared, You will regret this. Yao Guang, Yao Tian, you 2 old farts. Sooner or later, I will kill you. After dealing with Ao Ri, Yao Guang quickly left the auction house. He also took the Wind and Cloud chapter with him as he rushed towards the easternmost part of the Sea Race's continent. That was the place where the patriarch was in seclusion. Normally, even the second strongest Sea Dragon race wouldn't dare to enter that place. Inside the auction hall, the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King had a silly smile on his face as he looked at Yi Qinghan. Then he said, Thank you, boss. Thank you. Today was really satisfying. Looking at the envious eyes of so many people, I feel very proud. Looking at the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King's appearance, Yi Qinghan smiled. However, his heart felt sour. He couldn't understand what kind of life the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King had in the void ocean. But after teaching Ao Ri a little lesson, he was already satisfied. After I'm done with the Wind and Cloud chapter, I'll raise your realm first. With the effects of my son's zither, as well as the large amount of origin sacred stones, the Wind and Cloud chapter, as well as the 11th rank Saint Herbs, it should be enough for you to break through to the mid-king rank. Yi Qinghan firmly said. Hee, thank you, boss. The Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King scratched his head and said. Yi Qinghan looked at the Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King and said, Since I'm your boss, there's no need to say thanks. My cultivation has dropped to the overgod level, but you still recognize me. Do I have to say thanks to you? Chapter 1439. Yi Qinghan's words moved Brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King, but he didn't know that Yi Qinghan was even more grateful for his recognition. After so many years, they were no longer high and mighty experts, but their feelings were still the same. It was truly rare. Brother, he might be useless, but as long as he was sincere, he was worth cherishing. However, Yao Tian didn't know that what he had obtained today was completely because of his simplicity and sincerity towards love, which had obtained Yi Qinghan's approval. There was a cause and effect, and one would eventually receive a reward for their efforts. Even after several epochs, karma would still appear. The three of them stayed in the private room for half a day. Suddenly, a powerful divine sense swept past and locked onto Yi Qinghan's position. Yi Qinghan frowned and discovered that he couldn't move. He was shocked and his divine sense began to expand. His realm overlord's soul poured out and resisted that divine sense. The veins on his body bulged and his blood vessels were about to burst. The energy in his body was restless and could go out of control at any moment. Yi Qinghan's expression was malevolent and incomparably furious. The surrounding divine power surged and was even more terrifying than the roar of the void ocean. He could explode at any moment. That divine sense immediately retracted. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so unyielding and use such a strong reaction to respond to him. Dao friend, there is no need to be agitated. This old man is just testing. A deep voice reverberated in the private room. Following that, a spirited old man appeared. His face was glowing and his cultivation was ridiculously strong. He was much more terrifying than the old man from the Mu clan. Yi Qinghan's eyes were cold and he roared hoarsely, "You are courting death. If you provoke me, the entire oceanic race continent will be buried with me." It was obvious that this old man wanted to test and control Yi Qinghan. If Yi Qinghan couldn't control his soul in time, then he would be able to take away the wind and cloud chapter, rain summoning chapter, and law chapter without using any resources. Plundering the memories of someone who surpassed a pseudo-realm overlord would give him a lot of secret arts. The old man's mouth twitched. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan's reaction to be so intense. He didn't give him any face at all. This old man is the patriarch of the sea dragon race, Azure Void Dragon. I was just testing to see if Dao Friend's cultivation realm is really that of a realm overlord. I have no evil intentions. The old man smiled bitterly. The corners of Yi Qinghan's mouth curled up. He wanted nothing more than to slap Su Zonglong. How could he test him like this? I don't care who you are. My soul isn't something you can control. If you make the same mistake again, don't say I didn't warn you. Yi Qinghan replied coldly. Azure Void Dragon's face turned red. If they weren't in the private room, then he would have lost all his face. He had never been berated like this in his entire life. However, he knew that he was in the wrong, so he couldn't refute. After all, this was the bottom line of an expert. Moreover, his real goal was the same as what Yi Qinghan had guessed. He wanted to control Yi Qinghan and use the smallest price to exchange for the 3 chapters of the legend of the vast sea devouring the heavens. But he didn't expect that Yi Qinghan's soul wasn't at the peak of the pseudo-realm overlord realm, but at the legendary realm overlord realm. Dao friend, please calm down. It's this old man's fault. Azure Void Dragon apologized again and again. He was afraid that he would anger Yi Qinghan and not be able to exchange the rain summoning chapter and law chapter. Dazzling Sky was dumbfounded. The patriarch of the sea dragon race was actually being so well behaved. He had never seen such a thing before. Boss, please calm down. Lord Patriarch didn't do it on purpose. Dazzling Sky Sea Dragon King persuaded. Yi Qinghan didn't want to fall out with Azure Void Dragon. After all, he didn't want to self-detonate. This time, his avatar wasn't the same as last time. Moreover, Emperor Yi and Dazzling Sky were still here. Once he self-detonated, they would also die here. Moreover, he wanted to take away a large amount of resources from this place. Seeing Dazzling Sky Sea Dragon King dissuading him, he might as well sell him a favor and let Azure Void Dragon owe Dazzling Sky a favor. I'll give Dazzling Sky face this time. But there won't be a next time. Yi Qinghan coldly said. Azure Void Dragon immediately smiled. He felt gratified towards Dazzling Sky's Sea Dragon King. Sit down. This old man is here to make a deal. I definitely didn't come here with evil intentions. Azure Void Dragon said. Yi Qinghan silently sat down. Azure Void Dragon smiled and deliberately broke the ice. He asked, Dao friend in my clan's Dazzling Sky are? He's my brother. When he was young, he was my brother, an eternal brother. But after several epochs, he was actually humiliated by a junior of the Sea Dragon clan. When did the Sea Dragons become so disrespectful? Yi Qinghan asked with an evil tone. Who dares to be so bold? Dazzling Sky, just say it. This old man will make an example out of you. Azure Void Dragon pretended to be angry. Dazzling Sky had been humiliated for so many years. How could he not know about it? It was just that Dazzling Sky's talent was too poor. Dazzling Sky quickly smiled foolishly and said, Lord Patriarch doesn't need to take it to heart. I'm already used to it. How can you be used to it? Come with me. I must teach these little bastards a lesson today. Azure Void Dragon angrily said, as if he was really angry. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up as he coldly looked at Azure Void Dragon's bluff. How could Azure Void Dragon lose face in front of Yi Qinghan? Moreover, this was a crucial moment. In order to obtain the law chapter, he had to go all out. He coldly snorted and pulled Dazzling Sky Sea Dragon King out of the room. Shwa! An imposing aura soared to the sky, covering the entire marine race continent. He angrily shouted, This old man is the patriarch of the Sea Dragon race. From today onwards, I'll take Dazzling Sky as my personal disciple. Whoever dares to be disrespectful to him will be disrespectful to this old man. Dazzling Sky's hair stood up as he looked at Azure Void Dragon in shock. He felt that his happiness was too strong, causing his brain to be unable to function properly. The marine race continent went into an uproar. Dazzling Sky Sea Dragon King was definitely a joke in the marine race territory. His talent was so bad that it fell to the ground. Unexpectedly, he was able to take the patriarch of the Sea Dragon race as his master. How is this possible? What kind of luck does this guy have? Did I hear it wrong? How old is that old thing? He's still an early king. If he didn't sleep too much, he would have already died of old age. Now, he's actually taken in by the #1 expert of the Sea Dragon race territory as his personal disciple. This isn't fair. I've reached the king realm at such a young age, but I can't even meet the patriarch of the Sea Dragon race. What qualifications does he have? The young experts all around were incomparably resentful. Their hearts were filled with unwillingness. The Silver Snake female cultivator who was 100 kilometers away frowned. She suspected that Azure Void Dragon's treatment of a waste might have something to do with Yi Qinghan. Those two humans aren't simple. They can actually influence the thoughts of the Sea Dragon race patriarch and even announce it in public. I'm afraid that he has something to ask of them. I've underestimated those two humans. The Silver Snake female cultivator muttered to herself. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was looking at Azure Void Dragon's performance with an evil smile. Since he was willing to give Dazzling Sky such a status, there were some things that couldn't be discussed. Azure Void Dragon's attitude was very firm. It was as if he was sincerely treating Dazzling Sky well. But regardless of whether he was sincere or not, Dazzling Sky Sea Dragon King's status in the Sea Dragon territory would rise to the peak in the future. Even the patriarchs of the other races wouldn't dare to make things difficult for Dazzling Sky. Chapter 1440. Yi Qinghan was very satisfied with Azure Void Dragon's attitude and didn't make things difficult for him. Azure Void Dragon brought the excited Yao Tian into the room. He smiled at Yi Qinghan and said, Yaoan is very lucky to have a brother like you. This old man is very pleased. Haha, for me, having a brother like you is my fortune. Yi Qinghan laughed. What he said was true. If it weren't for the brilliant Sky Sea Dragon King, he wouldn't have been able to reach the merfolk's mainland. Azure Void Dragon laughed and rubbed his hands. He probed, since we're family, then let's not talk like strangers. This old man came here to trade for the 3 great sections of the vast sea devouring the heavens. I don't know if you're willing to part with them? Yi Qinghan lightly said, naturally, we can trade. After all, the sea dragons live in the void ocean, so we have no conflict with each other. However, the price must be negotiated. I need resources, the more the better. Moreover, I'll have to wait until I leave the void ocean before I can give them to Yaun. Azure Void Dragon awkwardly asked, well, does fellow Taoist not trust my Sea Dragon clan? I'm sorry, but aside from my true brothers, I don't trust anyone else. It's better for everyone to have a backup plan. If someone gets greedy and tries to steal my resources and fails, I'll take them down with me if I get angry. It wouldn't be good to hurt the innocent people of Sea Dragon Weave either, right? Yi Qinghan calmly replied. Yi Qinghan's tone was calm, but Void Dragon felt a chill run down his spine. Yi Qinghan's words made it clear that if he was ambushed in Sea Dragon Weave and his resources were stolen, he would come to the central continent and self-destruct. Everyone would die together. Fellow Taoist, rest assured. There won't be anyone in the Sea Dragon Weave who would be blind. Azure Void Dragon repeatedly guaranteed. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, I don't want to be high profile. If you announce it to the world, even an idiot will know that I have a treasure on me. It will definitely attract experts to fight over it. If you kill me, they will escape and you won't be able to find them. The Void Azure Dragon nodded in agreement with Yi Qinghan's words. The void ocean was boundless. Once someone committed a crime, they could run away and no one would be able to catch them. All right then, let's trade the first 2 chapters first. The Void Dragon said straightforwardly. Yi Qinghan stared at the Void Dragon and said, price, I hope that the Sea Dragon Patriarch won't say a price that will make me laugh my teeth off. This old man will definitely not treat you unfairly. I'll pay you 5 times the price you quoted earlier. I really want to trade with you. Of course, I want to trade the 3rd piece of the laws even more, the Void Dragon said. 5 times the price wasn't too expensive. Even 10 times the price would be worth it. The Void Dragon understood this. However, Yi Qinghan didn't ask for much. He wasn't stupid enough to take the initiative to increase the price. This was only the price of the first 2 chapters. As for the 3rd chapter, it was the real deal. If the Void Dragon had the luck to become a Realm Lord, it wouldn't be impossible for him to become a legendary heavenly beast. Therefore, the price would be terrifying. As for the price of the first 2 chapters, Yi Qinghan didn't care about it and nodded in agreement. Here are the resources. I've already prepared them. Fellow Taoist can count them. There's also a peak-grade origin sacred stone that is close to saturation. Once it explodes, it would be equivalent to a pseudo-realm lord exploding. The range of destruction would be about 3,000 li. No living being would be able to escape within this range. The Void Dragon handed over a spatial ring. It was simple and unadorned. The patterns on it were very beautiful, but the space inside wasn't too big. Yi Qinghan received it and dripped his blood on it to bind it. He roughly scanned it and found a peak-grade origin sacred stone that was close to saturation. This grade of origin sacred stone was many times higher than the 3 origin sacred stones in Brilliant Sky's collection. Yi Qinghan was very satisfied. He stored the spatial ring into his body and leaned on the chair. He stared at the Void Dragon and asked, give me a price. Of course, according to the real price, I wouldn't be able to afford it even if I sold the entire marine race continent. I'm only selling it because of Yao Tian. I understand. The White Finsaint clan is an existence that represents luck. They are the foundation of this world. The secret techniques of the Saint clan have no price. The Void Dragon replied. The Void Dragon looked at Yi Qinghan and thought for a long time. He didn't know how to quote a price. If he quoted a low price, it would be the same as angering Yi Qinghan. If he quoted a high price, it would affect the inheritance of the Sea Dragon clan. Fellow Taoist, how about I take you to the treasury of the Sea Dragon clan? You can choose any treasures you want. You can also consider what you lack and I'll try my best to find it for you. How about it? The Void Dragon asked. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment. The Sea Dragon clan's inheritance had been passed down for so many years. He didn't know how many resources there were in the treasury. It would be best if he could go in and pick what he wanted. Therefore, he immediately agreed. I'll write down the rain summoning first and then hand it over to you. Yi Qinghan replied. The void dragon was naturally happy. Soon, only Yi Qinghan was left in the room. He was writing the rain summoning by himself. In the territory of the sea race, gales were whistling and heavy rain was pouring down. It seemed as if it was going to drown the entire continent. Yi Qinghan's words and actions could summon the wind and rain. The rain was filled with killing intent that could seize people's souls. The void dragon's face was filled with joy when he saw the changes in the world. He couldn't wait to get his hands on the rain summoning technique. This was a secret technique that existed specifically for the Dragon Clan. It could summon the wind and rain, control the laws of the sea, and devour the heavens. With Yi Qinghan's current cultivation, he could only display this much strength. If he were to reach the pseudo-realm Lord Realm, the rain he summoned would be like a divine weapon that could pierce through the bodies of the sea race experts and devour their vitality. However, just this aura alone was enough to frighten people. Writing the rain summoning technique required a large amount of soul force. Yi Qinghan wasn't in a hurry. He wrote one page and then rested. He made sure that his soul was in a state of high tension so that he could counterattack at any time. At the very least, he could ensure that he had the ability to self-detonate. He wrote the rain summoning technique for an entire night. It wasn't until the next morning that Yi Qinghan stopped writing and rested for a moment. After absorbing a large amount of resources, his soul force recovered very quickly. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Looking at the rain summoning technique, he felt a sense of accomplishment. However, he was worried in his heart. The law summoning technique didn't only require one's soul force to write, it also required a boundless amount of energy. At the very least, one had to be at the peak of the pseudo-realm Lord Realm in order to write it. Right now, his cultivation was only at the peak of the paramount God realm. There was a huge gap between the two realms. No matter how good his talent was or how much resources he had, it was impossible for him to reach the peak of the pseudo-realm Lord Realm in a short time. Yi Qinghan was worried in his heart. However, his face was expressionless as he handed the rain summoning technique to the void dragon. The void dragon looked at the rain summoning technique and carefully flipped through it. He immediately treated it as a treasure and hid it away as if he was afraid that someone would steal it. Dao friend, please follow me to the forbidden area of the Sea Dragon clan. You can choose from the treasury. The void dragon said excitedly. Chapter 1441. Dragon Mountain was a dragon-shaped mountain range that stretched on endlessly. The head of the dragon was facing upwards, as if it wanted to fly into the sky. Clouds and mist lingered about, shrouding half of the mountain. The surrounding area was lush and verdant, as though everything was in its original state. It was indescribably beautiful. There were dragon celestial grasses everywhere, and their levels were very high. Level 11 dragon celestial grasses were everywhere, and level 12 dragon celestial grasses could be found occasionally. At this point, Yi Qinghan realized that he had very little resources. Very little. 10 times the amount of resources was a joke to the dragon race. Emperor Yi directly pounced on a gorgeous red flower bush. No matter how strong a woman was, she would not be able to resist such a beautiful temptation. Let's continue forward. Don't worry about her, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan rushed towards Dragon Mountain under Void Dragon's lead, while Yao Tian stayed near Emperor Yi to protect him. Inside Dragon Mountain, the spiritual energy was oppressive. Yi Qinghan and the Void Dragon entered the mountain. A majestic palace came into view. The huge dragon palace was hidden inside the mountain. There were a lot of sea dragon experts cultivating in the surroundings. Although they had yet to awaken, the faint pressure they emitted made people not dare to approach. A few divine senses passed by and discovered the Void Azure Dragon, so they immediately retreated. The Void Azure Dragon brought Yi Qinghan to the outside of the Dragon Palace. In front of the Dragon Palace's mountain gate, there were a few huge stone dragons coiling around. They rushed all the way to the peak of the mountain and had a majestic aura. At the mountain gate, there was a 5-clawed divine dragon pressing down on the stone gate. As long as the dragon claws were not destroyed, the stone gate would definitely not be opened. Furthermore, the material of the dragon claws was definitely special. The stone door was engraved with powerful dragon race runes. The patterns were chaotic. It was unknown how many sea dragon experts had engraved these runes day in and day out. They were passed down from generation to generation. It was impossible to rely on one's wisdom to unlock them one by one. Even if Yi Qinghan had the soul of a realm lord, it would still be impossible for him to unlock them. This place was the foundation of the Azure Void Dragon. Naturally, the sea dragons had set up an impenetrable defense. The Void Dragon let out a low roar and its right hand turned into a dragon claw. It shone with a golden light and clashed with the 5-clawed golden dragon claw on the stone door. The 2 claw marks merged perfectly, and the stone door opened. The primordial energy inside was extremely dense, and it rushed into Yi Qinghan's body. The hair on the surface of his body stood up, and his pores enlarged, desperately absorbing the primordial energy. In just a few breaths, the energy in his body was completely saturated. If he continued to absorb it, he would self-destruct without any control. Yi Qinghan hurriedly sealed off the pores on the surface of his body and took the initiative to isolate himself from the primordial power. Who knows how many things were hidden in the treasure trove for who knows how long. If he pulled Brilliant Sky Ocean Dragon King here, he could easily break through to Pseudo-Sector Lord Middle Stage. Yi Qinghan's aura was restrained, and no one could see the slightest bit of excitement on his face. However, only he knew the ups and downs in his heart. The Void Dragon looked at the emotionless Yi Qinghan, and the corner of his eye twitched. The riches and primordial energy here were so rich that even the clan elder of the Sea Dragon clan would feel emotional. Why was this human not greedy at all? Didn't they say that humans were greedy? Dao friend, please come in. The Void Dragon gestured. Senior, please. Yi Qinghan took a step back and took the initiative to let the Void Dragon enter first. Dao friend's heart is really heavy. There aren't any traps inside the treasure trove. My clan has absolute confidence in themselves. Without our permission, no one would be able to force their way in. Therefore, we don't need to set up any traps. The Void Dragon was incomparably confident as he took the initiative to enter the Dragon Palace. The walls of the cave were also engraved with countless runes and law patterns. They were so dense that it was impossible to see what kind of profoundness and laws were contained within. However, the effects weren't weakened, and instead, they were superimposed. The Dragon Mountain was very big, and behind it was the Void Ocean. The Dragon Palace was hidden under the Dragon Mountain. It was close to the ocean, and there were many sea dragon experts guarding it. Indeed, no one would be able to force their way in. If an intact realm lord were to force their way in, then the peak-grade origin sacred stone inside the Dragon Palace would explode. All the resources inside would be destroyed, and the realm lord wouldn't be able to escape. The underground palace was very big, so big that it was boundless. It was divided into small inner palaces, and each palace had a lot of treasures. The deeper one went, the higher the grade of the treasures. Yi Qinghan looked at the inner palace that wasn't closed. He couldn't hide his emotions any longer. Rank 11 Dragon Immortal Grass was the best healing medicine in the 9 realms. Even those who had half a foot in hell would be pulled back by this medicine. But here, there was actually a room full of them. The room was filled with hundreds of thousands of Dragon Immortal Grasses. And these treasures were actually placed in the outermost area by the Sea Dragon race. They didn't care because the Dragon Immortal Grass was born because of the Sea Dragon race. As long as the Sea Dragon race wasn't exterminated, they could have as much Dragon Immortal Grass as they wanted. Gulp. Yi Qinghan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. If fellow Taoist likes it, I can give you a room full of Dragon Immortal Grass. It's only rank 11 Dragon Immortal Grass. My race can harvest a few every year. After so many years, although half of them have been used up, the underground palace can't hold them anymore. We need to clear them out. Void Dragon laughed and said straightforwardly. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. The dragon race was really rich. A room full of rank 11 Dragon Immortal Grass, there were at least hundreds of thousands of them. and they actually said that they couldn't hold them anymore and needed to clear them out. What did they think dragon immortal grass was? Trash? Whoosh! Yi Qinghan didn't hesitate to use his spatial ring and directly swallowed all the dragon immortal grass in the room. This could be considered as helping the dragon race clean up their trash. Do you want me to help you clear a few more rooms of dragon immortal grass? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. These dragon immortal grass were vivid and lifelike, as if they had just been picked. The main reason was that the spiritual qi here was too dense. Even if they were picked, their essence wouldn't be damaged. But if you like, you can take another room full of dragon immortal grass. Void Dragon felt a bit of heartache. He felt that he had been too pretentious. Which dragon race didn't love money? If it was really trash, why would they send it to the treasure pavilion? Yi Qinghan didn't hesitate to walk to the next room. He realized that the outer rooms were filled with dragon immortal grass, and they were all rank 11. Yi Qinghan was satisfied with taking away 2 rooms full of dragon immortal grass. If he asked for more, Void Dragon wouldn't be able to take it. This was a friendly gift, and it wasn't considered a transaction in the 3rd chapter of the rules. Walking along the small paths, he looked at the treasures in the big rooms. They were brightly lit, and there were luminous pearls and all kinds of jewelry. Even though this was an underground palace, it was as bright as day. Even the powerful cultivators of the 9 realms liked to collect rare luminous pearls. Yi Qinghan also took a fancy to a few luminous pearls that were the size of a fist. They were actually emitting a 7-colored light, which was very pleasing. He wanted to give them to his women. These luminous pearls are not bad. I'll take them and give them to my women. Your sea race shouldn't be lacking in these things. Senior, you won't mind, right? After saying that, Yi Qinghan didn't care about Void Dragon's expression. He directly took the pearls and put them into his spatial ring. Chapter 1442. The sea dragons loved sparkling pearls, and these treasures were hard to find. Their spiritual energy was very pure, and although there wasn't much of it, they were very beautiful. These things could definitely be sold for a good price among female cultivators, and experts would also compete for them. There was a heart-shaped treasure that emitted a rainbow-colored light. It was extremely beautiful, and Yi Qinghan took it. Azure Void Dragon's eyes began to burn with anger. If Yi Qinghan took something of a higher value, he wouldn't feel bad. However, these things were unique, and if he took them away, they would be gone. But in order to get the law chapter, he had no choice but to part with them. There was another small pearl that looked like a qilin. Its formation was very strange, and after Yi Qinghan took it, he asked, Senior, you don't mind, right? Azure Void Dragon's eyes widened, and he didn't say anything for a long time. If you don't mind, then I'll take it as a yes. After Yi Qinghan said that, he nonchalantly turned around and continued to look for other good pearls. Azure Void Dragon was speechless. After a full hour of searching, Yi Qinghan finally left Mingzhu's room. Azure Void Dragon let out a breath. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan wasn't greedy and only took 5 or 6 of his favorite pearls. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to hold back. The underground palace was rugged, and the primitive spiritual energy assailed his nostrils. Yi Qinghan arrived at the sea race's material area. There were materials for overgod artifacts everywhere, but Yi Qinghan wasn't interested in them. He only cared about going deeper, and he found quite a few pseudo-world artifact materials. Yi Qinghan coughed dryly and suppressed the ecstasy in his heart. He pretended to be calm as he said, Senior, I'm going to start the official selection. I want everything I order. Please prepare a universe ring and put it away. It will be easier to trade later. Azure Void Dragon's legs went soft. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would be greedy and take away most of the treasures in the treasury. Of the pseudo-world artifact materials here, I want this, that, and this. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and pointed his finger, causing Su Songlong to sweat profusely. It had to be known that the sea dragon race had existed for countless years, and the sea dragon weave was boundless. Even if they obtained 3 treasures every year, they would only use 2. How much could they save after several epochs? Innumerable. Although the Void Dragon's expression was ugly, it was not to the point of being unwilling. After all, There was nothing that could resist the temptation of becoming a heavenly beast. After the materials for the pseudo-world artifact had been swept clean, Yi Qinghan was not going to let go of such a big treasure trove. He continued to go deeper and found a room with dragon's celestial grass. At first glance, he thought it was still a level 11 dragon celestial grass. He was about to skip it when a strong life force went deep into his soul. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. The dragon's celestial grass was piled up in half of the room. There were more than 30,000 stalks of dragon celestial grass. They were not level 11 dragon celestial grass, but level 12 dragon celestial grass. The sea dragon race that had existed for countless years only had about 30,000 level 12 dragon celestial grass. It could be seen how precious they were. Yi Qinghan's eyes were burning, and the void dragon's heart was trembling. Fellow Taoist, the dragon celestial grass here is the foundation of my sea dragon race. We cannot sell it wantonly. The void dragon uneasily reminded. 1/5? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Even if you stop the trade, I can't do anything about it. The Sea Dragon Clan Elder will not allow us to sell so many level 12 dragon celestial grass at once. The Void Dragon did not hesitate to refuse. It won't affect the survival of the Sea Dragon race. You can make up for it in a few years. Yi Qinghan said. Why do you need so many level 12 dragon celestial grass? Are you seriously injured every day? The Void Dragon frowned and asked. Wait until I leave the Void Ocean. I'll go find the 7 Realm Lords and kill as many as I can. With level 12 dragon celestial grass, I won't be afraid of them. Yi Qinghan grinned. What? Find the 7 Realm Lords and kill them? You're the reincarnation of the desolate warlord? The Void Dragon was very smart. He thought of Yi Qinghan's Realm Lord soul and his words. He was able to guess Yi Qinghan's identity. At this moment, he suddenly retreated and maintained a certain distance. It could be seen that he was afraid of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's expression immediately turned cold. The smile on his face disappeared. Damn, you're really the desolate warlord. Didn't you die? The Void Dragon looked at Yi Qinghan's expression and knew that he had guessed correctly. He was extremely shocked. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and looked at the Void Dragon. A cold light flashed as he asked, You don't have any relationship with the 7 Realm Lords, do you? The Void Dragon waved his hand. He was afraid that he would anger Yi Qinghan and kill him. Yi Qinghan's strength wasn't that great, but once the Realm Lord's soul exploded, the Sea Dragon clan's forbidden area would definitely be destroyed. The top clan elders of the Sea Dragon clan wouldn't be able to survive. I don't have any relationship with them. Absolutely not. The Void Azure Dragon replied. That's for the best. We don't have any conflict and shouldn't have. As long as you treat Yao Tian well, I won't mistreat the Sea Dragon clan when I recover my strength. Yi Qinghan said. The Void Dragon was somewhat afraid. In his eyes, Realm Lords were heavenly beasts, especially the Warlord of the Desolate Warlord. He was an existence that could fight against 7 Realm Lords. Although he was defeated, it was a glorious defeat. With his soul standing here, even if he was a peak paramount god, no one would be able to stop him from exploding. Since you're the warlord of the desolate warlord, I'll agree to your request. 1/10, 3,000 rank 12 dragon immortal grasses. The Void Dragon smiled. I hope that you're the only one who knows my identity. Also, I have 2 clones. I can give up one of them at any time. Yi Qinghan faintly warned. Don't worry, I'm not a talkative person. I'm not interested in going to the 9-world sky to tell the 7 Realm Lords. They won't be able to give me any benefits. The Void Dragon said firmly. Then, the Void Dragon took away 3,000 rank 12 dragon immortal grasses. Satisfied, Yi Qinghan left the room and continued to search for treasures. There were treasures everywhere. Even Yi Qinghan became greedy and wanted to take everything away. With these treasures, it would be enough for the great wasteland domain to rise again. Unfortunately, the Sea Dragon race wouldn't give up their foundation for the legend of the vast ocean devouring the heavens. The underground palace was at least a dozen li in radius. There were countless treasures hidden underground. Yi Qinghan searched for half a night before he finally reached the deepest part of the palace. There were a few rooms in the deepest part of the palace that had their stone doors closed. Yi Qinghan looked curiously at the void dragon and said, "Senior, since we're going to make a deal, you can't just give me some worthless things in exchange for the 3 chapters. The Bay Saint clan's secret technique, the Fortune chapter, is the only secret technique that can allow one to surpass heavenly beasts. Can't you show some sincerity?" The void dragon glared angrily at Yi Qinghan. He felt humiliated and said, "What do you mean they're all worthless things? Those are the treasures that have been passed down to this day. How can worthless things enter my dragon race's underground palace?" Chapter 1443. Void Dragon angrily glared at Yi Qinghan. He was angry, but he didn't dare to vent his anger. So many treasures had been taken away, and after seeing these rooms, Yi Qinghan immediately turned hostile. Was there anyone more shameless than him? Yi Qinghan laughed awkwardly. He winked and said in a tempting tone, "Don't be so stingy. When the time comes, I can give you a copy of my cultivation experience. It will help you avoid many detours. Let me tell you the truth. Back then, I relied on this law chapter to reach the World Lord realm. During the chaotic war of the 9 realms, you should know what I relied on to defeat 7 of them. Wasn't it just the law chapter? You lost." Void Dragon poked Yi Qinghan's wound and said. Yi Qinghan angrily said, "Fuck, it wasn't just the 7 of them. There was also a group of ants around. I fought against 7 of them for dozens of years before I was defeated. I was suppressed by 7 world overlords, but I was still able to escape and reincarnate. Wasn't it all because of the law chapter? Who dares to say that the law chapter isn't strong? I will kill him." Yes. You are indeed very strong. If I didn't really want the law chapter, do you think I would bring you to the Sea Dragon clan's treasury? So far, you are the only human to have entered this place. Aside from the Sea Dragon Patriarch and the elders, even the strongest of the younger generation cannot enter this place. The Void Dragon explained in a deep voice. That's why. Since you have acknowledged the law chapter, if you want to obtain it, you have to take out something truly good. This is a priceless treasure. In addition to the cultivation insights of a realm overlord, you have missed out on this opportunity. There won't be a second realm overlord who will be willing to use this to trade with you," Yi Qinghan advised. However, what he said was the truth. He really wanted to take revenge. He really wanted to recover to the realm lord level as soon as possible. Otherwise, he wouldn't be bothered to say such useless things to the Void Azure Dragon. Void Dragon swallowed his saliva. He was already drooling over the law chapter. Countless years ago, he had heard about the 4 great chapters of the Bay Saint clan's legend of the vast ocean devouring the heavens. Unfortunately, it had never appeared in the world. Now that it had appeared, how could he not buy it? The Azure Void Dragon's face twisted as he struggled internally. If it weren't for Yi Qinghan's soul being too strong and he was worried that Yi Qinghan would self-destruct, then he would have already snatched it away. Why would he trade for it with a treasure? You can only choose one material from the 4 rooms. Furthermore, you can't choose any more materials. You can only choose this much, the Void Dragon suggested in a deep voice. This. Yi Qinghan hesitated for a moment. Seeing how much the Azure Void Dragon valued these 4 rooms, he guessed that the treasures in these rooms must be very important. Of course, he did not want to miss it. He negotiated, "I will choose one material from these 4 rooms. Allow me to choose 3 more. Pick out 2 more items. Don't be so stingy. You've hidden them in the treasury for nothing, but if you give them to me, they'll be of great use," Yi Qinghan said angrily. "At most, I'll pick another one for you." The Azure Void Dragon would not back down. This time, he had cut off too much meat because these 4 rooms contained the sea race's lifetime's worth of blood, sweat, and tears. The materials for the 4 realm artifacts could not be forged yet, so they had always been hidden here. Alright, one then. Yi Qinghan was very straightforward. The smile on his face was very obvious. The stone door was still covered by countless runes. The dragon's might was very dense. No one could even think of forcing their way in. The azure void dragon mobilized the dragon god's power, and the stone door quickly moved upwards. The first room was opened, and there was a pitch-black meteorite inside. It was not big, but it was very heavy. Its density was probably the largest rock Yi Qinghan had ever seen. Yi Qinghan crossed his legs and reached out to grab the meteorite. The rocks under his feet cracked and his veins popped out. His blood vessels were gushing, but he still could not move the meteorite. He was completely unable to measure how heavy and dense the meteorite was. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He muttered, "It's a natural realm artifact. If a realm master uses it to smash people, it will definitely smash a few powerful stars." The meteorite was very smooth, as if it had been polished. It was very easy to forge a realm artifact with this meteorite. All one needed to do was drill 5 holes in the meteorite so that one could insert one's finger. However, drilling holes in this round meteorite was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Unless a realm master personally came, he would have to waste a lot of time and energy to forge it. The azure void dragon sneered and thought, "Since you can't move it, then don't blame me." This meteorite was moved into the treasury by the combined efforts of the 10 strongest experts of the sea dragon race. After trying for a long time, Yi Qinghan was gasping for breath. He had no choice but to give up. "Forget it. Let's change rooms." Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. The azure void dragon pretended to be regretful and said, "It's all right. There are still 3 rooms. There are bound to be things that you can move." The density of a realm artifact's material was very high. It completely relied on its weight to destroy everything. Take the Great Wastelands Monument, for example. Other than Yi Qinghan himself, not many people could move it, let alone use it. Therefore, the azure void dragon believed that Yi Qinghan would not be able to move any of the treasures in the 4 rooms. "It seems that I have overestimated a realm master's soul. His physical body is really a mess." The azure void dragon laughed sinisterly. After that, the azure void dragon brought Yi Qinghan to the second room. When the door opened, a stone sword appeared. It was about 20 centimeters wide and 2 meters long. The sword's hilt was about as thick as an adult's wrist. It did not look like a human's weapon at all. The stone sword emitted an ice-cold sword aura. Its might was monstrous. It was a formed realm artifact and not a realm artifact's material. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He could not recall whose weapon this was. After all, since the beginning of the world, other than the 4 great heavenly beasts, there were only 7 realm masters. Then, who was the owner of this stone sword? This stone sword? Where did you get it? Yi Qinghan asked in a deep voice. This stone sword was not born naturally. It was not like the meteor. This stone sword was man-made. We found it in the void ocean. Originally, there was a powerful pressure that prevented others from approaching it. However, it drifted all the way to the central continent of the sea race. It seemed that the artifact spirit had given up on resisting. However, our race could not use it. It was too heavy. In the end, we put it in the treasury, the azure void dragon said with certainty. Yi Qinghan was rather curious. He went forward and carefully observed the stone sword. He realized that he had never seen the runic laws on it before. The profound meaning on it was even more difficult to understand. The pattern was also very strange. He could not help but place both his hands on the sword's hilt. He could only imagine that the person who used this stone sword was at least twice his size. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He and the sword became one. The realm master's soul rushed out of his body. It was like a heavenly beast had appeared. The body of the war god erupted. He exerted force with both hands, wanting to take the stone sword away. However, the stone sword suddenly exploded. A destructive power erupted from within and fiercely collided with Yi Qinghan. Hua! The feather spirit robe completely erupted. A 7-colored divine light covered Yi Qinghan and formed a small boundary that firmly wrapped around him. Boom! 2 powers that surpassed the pseudo-realm masters clashed. Qi soared into the sky. The entire underground palace was shaking. Chapter 1444. Bang! Yi Qinghan was sent flying by the explosive power of the stone sword. He slammed into the azure void dragon behind him. Boom. The two of them slammed into each other and were sent flying out of the room by the shockwave. Then, they slammed into the stone wall. The runes on the stone wall exploded, sending the two of them flying back. Boom boom. Bang. Ouch. Pooh. The two of them screamed and spat out blood. They rolled on the ground at least 10 times. Their faces were covered in dirt and they were in a sorry state. Yi Qinghan was the first to bear the brunt of the impact. If not for the feather spirit robe, the stone sword's explosive power would have killed him. His organs were about to shatter and the blood in his body almost flowed in reverse. He was bleeding from all his orifices and he was weak. Azure Void Dragon was in an even worse state. He did not have the feather spirit robe to protect him. He was caught off guard and several of his dragon scales were shattered. He almost fainted. Cough cough. Fuck, didn't you say that the artifact spirit did not resist? Yi Qinghan said angrily. Pooh. Yi Qinghan was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. The stone sword shone brightly and swallowed the blood, forming a huge whirlpool that crazily swallowed the primal power. The blood kept flowing along the lines of the stone sword. The primal power had awakened the stone sword's artifact spirit. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan would not have been beaten so badly. It was the first time in many years that he had suffered such a great loss. He had even lost to the artifact spirit. This must be because the stone door was opened and the stone sword was activated by the primal power. Azure Void Dragon crawled up from the ground in a sorry state. He had an ugly expression. Yi Qinghan grimaced. His entire body was in pain as if he had been torn apart. What is the origin of this damn stone sword? I don't believe that such a powerful artifact could be born in this world. Yi Qinghan twisted his body and approached the stone sword. He realized that his blood had already dyed the stone sword red. The lines on it were abnormally clear and it emitted a sharp sword aura. The stone sword was trembling as if it was about to fly into the sky. The surrounding air was moving along with it. Boom, boom. Following that, Yi Qinghan's qi and blood began to churn. It seemed to move along with the stone sword, roaring in an orderly manner. His qi and blood seemed to burning his skin. His entire body was in pain, as if thousands of ants were gnawing at his heart, bones, and flesh. Yi Qinghan screamed. He curled up and roared, "Get rid of the blood I left on the stone sword. Otherwise, I'll blow myself up for you to see." The Void Azure Dragon was alarmed. When it saw Yi Qinghan's ferocious face change shape, it hurriedly summoned some seawater to charge at the stone sword. However, before the seawater could touch the stone sword emitted a force that formed a barrier. Sword chi rampaged within the barrier as it followed the seawater towards the Void Azure Dragon. Bang! Boom! The empty dragon did not even have the strength to fight back. It was sent flying by the sword chi. It slammed into the stone wall and was bounced back by the rune law. Yi Qinghan collapsed to the ground, his body convulsing. The stone sword could actually use the blood essence on the stone sword to control the blood essence in his body. It was unheard of. Calm down. I need to calm down. Although Yi Qinghan's physical body was in unbearable pain, his soul was still an invincible sector lord. At this moment, he immediately stabilized his state of mind. He formed a seal with his palms and drew an 8 trigrams imprint. He stuck it to his chest and both sides shot out a beam of light. The laws of heaven and earth, with the 8 trigrams as the guide, prevent all things from corroding. Protect my golden body, protect my soul. Yi Qinghan quickly muttered. The 8 trigrams imprint around him spun rapidly, forming a 8 trigrams chain that enveloped him. However, the stone sword did not resist at all. It could still control the burning of blood essence and frantically reorganize the order in his body. Pooh. Fuck. The stone sword is from the inner realm. Damn it, there is a 9th sector lord in the inner realm. Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of blood essence. His soul was almost sucked dry. The stone sword was too powerful. It was so powerful that it could destroy everything. Most importantly, the treasure in the underground palace was providing it with boundless energy. Even Yi Qinghan could not outlast it. What? Yi Qinghan's body began to burn. The more than 10 godhoods in his body were burned into nothingness. The various types of divine power in his body filled his limbs and bones. It could cause Yi Qinghan to self-destruct at any time. Yi Qinghan did not want to die, nor did he want to self-destruct. The Yu Ling robe was still on him and not on his avatar. Emperor Yi was also here. If he self-destructed here, everyone nearby would be finished. Yi Qinghan quickly mobilized the divine power in his body and fused all the different types of power together. Although they were incompatible with Yi Qinghan's powerful soul, he could fuse these low-level divine powers together. Soon, all the energy was assimilated by the Great Desolation divine power and turned into the Great Desolation force. When Yi Qinghan finished sorting out the messy energy in his body, he suddenly realized that the stone sword wasn't destroying his body. Instead, it was evolving his body. Every cell in his body had become endlessly powerful. Oh! Yi Qinghan frowned. Using his divine sense, he sensed the changes in his bloodline and body. He discovered that his blood cells were completely different from before. They were much larger, and he was about 10 centimeters taller. Even more terrifying was that his arms had become thicker and more powerful. If he had been delicate before, he was now muscular and muscular. The stone sword is transforming my bloodline? It's taking the essence and discarding the impurities. It's transforming my body into that of a giant blood tribe member? Yi Qinghan murmured. Using his divine sense, he carefully examined his body. He discovered that all the advantages of the Great Desolation divine power had been preserved. However, he had gained some special abilities. For example, his body had grown larger, and his blood cells had grown larger. He was at least 3 times stronger than before. Before, he had been a freak of physical strength, but now he was ridiculously strong. In addition, his cultivation level had been pushed to the peak of the paramount god level, and he could step into the pseudo-world lord level at any time. Boom! Yi Qinghan slowly stood up, his bones cracking. His bones were several times stronger than before, and he felt as though he could break an overgod weapon with a single kick. Kakaka! Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and stared at the stone sword in front of him. He discovered that his spirit was one with it, but he could only sense the name Giant Blood Tribe. Everything else was blurry, and he couldn't sense much at all. Perhaps the spirit of the stone sword had been asleep for too long, and there were many memories that couldn't be recalled in a short period of time. Boom! Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed the hilt of the stone sword. The stone sword let out a long hum, as though it was cheering and excited. Void Dragon looked at Yi Qinghan, whose aura had become even more tyrannical and violent. His eyes were filled with shock. With a world weapon in hand, Yi Qinghan was like a peerless war god. If his cultivation level was higher, he probably wouldn't even have the thought to resist. His aura was too strong, too tyrannical, too violent. His black hair fluttered without any wind. The feather spirit robe had fully awakened. Combined with the soul of a world lord and the tyrannical sword energy of the stone sword, if Yi Qinghan advanced another major realm, he would definitely be able to fight against those injured world lords. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.